The doll's silent stare. Have you ever felt a doll's eyes follow you across a room? It's a strange feeling, isn't it? This section looks at why an object made for comfort can sometimes feel unsettling. We're talking about the doll's silent stare, those moments when a doll, or even a mannequin, seems to be watching you, even though it's just a thing. Think about dolls through history. For a long time, people have made figures that look like us. Kids played with them, but sometimes they were used in rituals or even to represent spirits. We pour so much of ourselves, our ideas, and our feelings into these human-like shapes. And sometimes, those shapes seem to stare back with a silent question. Here's the thing, it's not really the doll doing the looking. Our brains are just wired to look for faces and human-like things. So, when we see a doll, our mind instantly tries to give it a personality, or even feelings. It's like when you see a cloud that looks exactly like a dog, or a face in the ripples of water. You know it's just a cloud or water, but for a second, it feels real. A doll's eyes, even painted ones, can catch the light. Suddenly, they seem deep, thoughtful, or even sad. Or imagine looking at a store mannequin. It's just plastic, but if its eyes are glassy and its pose is stiff, it can feel a little creepy, like it's silently judging your outfit. So, what does a doll's silent stare really tell us? Maybe it shows how powerful our own minds are. We see life where there is none, and we feel emotions that aren't really there. The creepiness we sometimes feel from a doll isn't because the doll is actually creepy. It's often because of the stories we tell ourselves, the fears we carry, or how our minds try to make sense of something that looks almost human, but isn't. It's a quiet reflection of our own thoughts, staring back, and that's why it matters. Whispers from the empty ward. Have you ever walked into a room, an old house maybe, after everyone has left? It's quiet, but not just regular quiet. There's a different kind of silence, isn't there? It feels like the air itself is holding its breath, thick with stories that aren't being told anymore. This feeling is what we touch on when we think about an empty ward. Imagine a hospital room, or a whole section of one, that's now abandoned. No beds, no patients, just dust and fading light. But for years, people lived there. They whispered hopes, they felt pain, they found comfort, they said goodbyes. So, when we see a photo of such a place, it's not just an empty space we're looking at. It's a stage where countless human dramas played out, and a part of that energy seems to linger, stuck in the very fabric of the walls. For a long time, people have wondered about this. It's why old churches feel different, or why certain ancient ruins give you goosebumps. It's not necessarily about ghosts, but about the imprint of human experience. Think about your own classroom after school lets out on a Friday. It's quiet, completely empty, but if you stand there for a moment, you can almost hear the chatter from earlier, the sound of pencils on paper, the rustle of bags. You feel the lingering energy of all your classmates and teachers who were just there. Now, imagine that feeling, stretched across years, even decades, in a place like an old hospital ward. The silence isn't just an absence of sound, it's a heavy quiet, filled with the echo of forgotten lives, unspoken fears, and tiny moments of bravery. So, a picture of an empty ward isn't just a picture of emptiness, it's a doorway into a deeper reflection, a quiet understanding of how places can absorb the human story, whispering it back to us long after the people are gone. It makes you consider how every space we inhabit, every room we leave, carries a small piece of our own invisible history, forever. The face in the pane. Have you ever looked at a dark window at night, and for a moment, thought you saw a face staring back? Or maybe a reflection, twisted just so, looked like someone else entirely. This feeling, this sudden glimpse of a face, where there isn't one, has a name. It's called pareidolia. Here's how it works. Our brains are amazing at finding patterns. They are always trying to make sense of the world around us. So sometimes, when we see a random collection of shadows, or shapes, our brain connects the dots and says, hey, that's a face. Humans have been doing this for a very long time. Think about how ancient people might have looked up at the stars and imagined gods or animals in the constellations, or how they might have seen watchful eyes in the patterns of rocks or trees. It was a way to understand things, a way to tell stories, and sometimes a way to feel safe, by recognizing what seemed familiar. And it still happens all the time today. Maybe you've seen a grumpy face in a house with 2 windows and a door, or the famous face on Mars that people once thought was a real monument. It's just our mind trying to make sense of random shapes. It's a trick, but a powerful one. But here's the thing. When we look at some truly unsettling photos, especially those where a face seems to emerge from a dark pane or a blurry background, it taps into something deeper. It's not just a trick of the light then. It's our own fears, our own imaginations, filling in the blanks. That blurry shape can become a lonely spirit, a forgotten whisper from the past, or a silent watcher. It reminds us that sometimes the true source of unease isn't what's really there, but the unsettling stories our own minds begin to tell in the shadows. It makes us wonder about the mysteries hidden just beyond our sight, waiting for our minds to give them shape. Shadows on the wall. Have you ever stared at a shadow, maybe a long one stretching from a tree, and felt a quiet shiver? It's just an absence of light, right? A dark shape cast when something blocks a light source. But sometimes, shadows feel like more than emptiness. They play tricks on our eyes, making familiar things look strange, even scary. Think about a flickering campfire at night. The flames dance, and behind them, your friends' faces twist into strange, huge shapes on the tent wall. They're still your friends, but their shadows seem different, bigger, almost like a separate, silent presence. This idea that shadows can trick us or hide the truth is super old. Way back, a Greek thinker named Plato told a story about people living in a cave. They could only see shadows on a wall, cast by a fire behind them. These people believed that shadows were the only real things. They thought the shifting shapes were actual people or animals, not just reflections. It teaches us about how we see the world, and how what we think is real might just be a dim copy. It's a bit like when you're walking home after dark, and a coat hanging on a door suddenly looks like a person standing there. Your mind fills in the blanks, makes a story. The shadow makes something innocent seem unsettling for a moment, and that's why it matters. Sometimes, the creepiest things aren't what's truly there, but what our minds build from the shadows. The unknown, the hidden parts of a picture or a moment, can feel far more disturbing than the clear truth. So, when we look at photos that give us that creeping feeling, maybe it's not always the obvious horror. Maybe it's the quiet spaces, the things left unseen, the way light fell or didn't fall. Shadows remind us that not everything is clear. They remind us to look closer, to wonder what hides just beyond the edge of what we can fully see. And in that wondering, there's both fear and a lot of thought. The last family portrait. Have you ever looked at old photos of your family? Maybe a picture from a summer vacation or a birthday party. We take photos to remember, don't we? To hold on to a moment, a smile, a place, a feeling. But what if a photograph, seemingly innocent and ordinary, carried a hidden weight? What if it was the very last moment a family was together, truly together, before something terrible changed everything? This is the quiet sadness of the last family portrait. It's not about ghosts or jump scares. It's about a picture taken, perhaps, on a bright, normal day. Everyone is smiling, maybe dressed for an outing, or just gathered in their living room. They look like any family. But we, the viewers, know something they didn't. We know that soon after that shutter clicked, tragedy struck. Maybe an accident, a sudden illness, or some other devastating event tore them apart. The picture itself doesn't show the pain. It holds the calm before the storm. Think about it this way. Imagine you're about to go on a really fun trip with your family. You take a group photo right before you leave, everyone excited and laughing. You think it's just one more photo to add to the album. But what if, unknown to you, that trip would end in a way no one could have predicted, and that photo became the very last happy memory you'd ever make as a complete family? That ordinary snapshot suddenly becomes heavy with unspoken history, a silent witness to a turning point. Throughout history, people have always tried to capture moments, from ancient cave paintings to modern phone cameras. We want to freeze time. A photograph gives us a tiny victory over time's march. But with last portraits, this victory feels bittersweet. We see innocence, unawareness, and then we add our own knowledge of what followed. It reminds us how fragile life can be, how quickly everything can shift. It makes us think about how every single moment, even the most everyday one, holds value, because we never truly know which one might be the last. A playdate with ghosts. Have you ever looked at a very old photograph? Not just quickly, but truly looked, letting your eyes settle on faded faces, blurred edges, and quiet smiles. Do you ever feel a strange quiet hum, a faint echo, as if the people in the picture are still somehow present, just out of sight? It's a strange feeling, isn't it? This isn't about actual ghosts, not the spooky kind. It's about something deeper, how a single moment, captured by light, can feel like it never truly dies. It's like a breath held inside a bottle, released when you peer closely. When cameras were new, many believed these images caught more than just a picture. They thought a camera could capture a piece of a person's spirit, making it permanent. This idea of freezing a soul was seen as magical and a little unsettling. Perhaps that old belief still whispers to us as we gaze at these silent witnesses from the past. Consider this: you have a favorite old object, maybe a worn teddy bear or a scratched wooden desk. When you hold it, you don't think a ghost is inside, but that object holds memories, doesn't it? It carries the weight of years, the unspoken stories of everyone who touched it. It's filled with a quiet presence, with echoes of life lived. A photograph is very much like that. It's a piece of paper, but it's soaked in the unseen experiences of moments from long ago. So when we find ourselves drawn to these old, sometimes unsettling images, we aren't really having a playdate with ghosts in a scary way. Instead, we are connecting with time itself. We're opening a small, silent window, not into a haunted house, but into a quiet conversation with people we will never meet, who lived lives we can only imagine. These captured moments remind us that every person, every face, every quiet breath leaves a mark. And sometimes, those marks can reach across the years, not to scare us, but to gently remind us of the vast, unending flow of human experience. It's a peaceful, profound connection, inviting us to reflect on our own brief moment in the grand, shared story of humanity. The carnival's broken smile. Have you ever looked at an old photo of a carnival clown, or a faded circus tent? You might first think of laughter and bright lights, but look closer. Sometimes, a quiet feeling creeps in, a tiny shiver, even if you can't quite say why. This is the carnival's broken smile. It's about things meant to be happy, but they hold a quiet sadness, or even a little fear. Think of a clown's painted smile. It's huge and bright, meant for grins, but because it's painted on, it never changes. It stays fixed. Sometimes, that unchanging smile feels more like a mask, hiding something underneath. Historically, carnivals were places of wonder, full of strange and exciting things, but they were also often on the edges of towns, a little separate. They brought joy, but also a sense of the unknown, of people who lived outside the usual SO. That bright smile of the carnival always had a tiny shadow. It hinted that behind the colorful show, there might be complicated or lonely stories. Here's a way to think about it. Imagine someone you know who always acts happy. No matter what, they might always have a big smile. Mostly, that's good. But sometimes, if you look closely, you might notice their eyes tell a different story. Maybe they look tired, or a little sad, even while their mouth is smiling. That's a bit like the carnival's broken smile. The outside shows one thing, but the inside holds something more. It reminds us to look beyond the first glance. It teaches us to notice small details, the quiet hints that tell a deeper truth. It's about seeing that even the brightest things can carry a whisper of shadow. And sometimes, those whispers are the most real parts of all. There's a quiet beauty in understanding that the world, and even people, often have many layers, not just the easy, smiling one. Eyes in the darkness. Have you ever been completely alone? Maybe in your room late at night, and felt like someone was watching you. It's dark. Your eyes are trying to adjust, but there's this strange feeling, a prickle on the back of your neck. It's not just a spooky movie thing. Here's the thing, humans have always felt this way. For thousands of years, long before electric lights, our ancestors lived in true darkness after the sun went down. Their world, once bright and clear, became a place of shadows and unknown sounds. In that deep dark, the human mind starts to work differently. It fills in the blanks. What if that rustle in the bushes isn't just wind? What if that strange shape in the corner of your eye isn't a coat, but something else entirely? Our brains are wired to look for patterns, to find faces or figures even. When they aren't there, it's a survival instinct, a very old part of us, trying to keep us safe, by making us aware of every possibility, even the unlikely ones. Think about it like this. When you stare at a cloud for a long time, you start to see shapes, a dragon, a dog, maybe even a person. The cloud itself hasn't changed, but your brain is trying to make sense of the random. It's the same in the dark. Our eyes strain, our other senses sharpen, and our imagination takes over. the darkness becomes a canvas for what we fear, or what we simply can't explain. We project our own thoughts, our own worries, onto the vast emptiness. So, when you feel those eyes in the darkness, it's often your own mind, your own ancient instincts, at play. It's a reminder of how powerful our brains are, creating a world for us even when our vision fails. The darkness isn't just an absence of light, it's a space where our deepest curiosities and fears can come alive, often within ourselves. It's a quiet invitation to wonder about what we can't see, and what our minds are capable of creating. The boy who saw too much. Have you ever seen something that just stayed with you? A moment so clear, so unexpected, that it forever changes the way you look at the world. Sometimes, for a child, those moments can be incredibly heavy. We're talking about witnessing, not just glancing, but truly seeing it, experiencing it deep inside. Imagine a young person, a boy, who stumbles upon something no one his age should see. It's like a secret carved into his mind, something he can't unlearn. This isn't just a scary image. It's a truth that breaks open the simple world he knew. Across history, stories often speak of innocence lost, of children who grow up too fast because of what they witnessed. Think of old myths where a young hero sees something terrible, and it marks them forever, giving them a quiet sorrow or heavy wisdom. It's when the world stops being bright and shows its shadows. It's a bit like when you learn a big secret about something you thought you knew, like learning how a magic trick works, and the wonder disappears, or discovering a dark part of history you never knew. Once you know, you can't go back to not knowing. For this boy, it's not a fun trick. It's an unforgettable image or event burned into his memory. Our brains are like cameras, and sometimes they snap a photo so powerful, it plays in our minds forever. So, the boy who saw too much isn't just a phrase. It's a quiet whisper about a heavy burden. It speaks to the silent weight some people carry, a wisdom born from a moment of raw reality. What we see shapes us, and sometimes the most powerful sights leave us changed, holding a piece of the world's mystery long after the moment passes. Echoes from a lost ship. Have you ever wondered what happens to a moment after it passes? Or what remains when something vanishes completely? It's a strange thought, but sometimes, even when a ship is lost to the deep sea, or a building is torn down, a piece of it seems to linger. We can call these echoes, not sounds bouncing back, but more like a feeling, a whisper, or a shadow left behind. Think about a very old house in your town, one where people lived many years ago. Even if you don't know their names, you might feel a sense of their lives there, right? Their stories, their joys, their sorrows. That house holds the echo of their presence. That's a bit like history, actually. History isn't just dates and names, it's all the echoes of human experience, reaching out to us from the past. When something dramatic or mysterious happens, those echoes can be incredibly strong, almost like they're still trying to tell us something. Consider a familiar smell, maybe the way a certain cookie baking reminds you of your grandparents' kitchen, even if they're no longer with us. The smell itself isn't your grandparent, but it carries a powerful echo of them, bringing back memories and feelings. It's a trace. Some of the creepiest photos we see are exactly like these echoes. They aren't just flat images on paper or a screen. Instead, they capture a moment, a person, or an event, and then they hold on to it. They become a kind of memory keeper, a silent witness. When we look at them, we're not just seeing what was there. We're feeling the ripple of what happened. We're touching the edge of a story that continued long after the shutter clicked. And that's why it matters. It reminds us that every single moment, every life, leaves its own unique trace in the world, even if it's just a whisper in time. The figure on the bridge. The figure on the bridge. Have you ever looked at a photo, perhaps an old one, and felt a shiver? Not because something scary jumped out, but because something in the background just wasn't quite right. A shadow too long, a shape that doesn't belong, like a whisper in a quiet room. Imagine an old photo of an empty bridge. Look closely, and you see it, a dark, almost human shape, standing still. Is it a person, a trick of light? Our minds are amazing storytellers, trying to make sense of everything, even without clear answers. The figure on the bridge uses that human instinct. It's not about a monster, but the gap between what we know and what we think we know. For a long time, people have found shapes where there weren't any. Think about clouds on a lazy afternoon. One looks like a dragon, another like a hand. Ancient people might have seen faces in rocks or figures in mist, believing they were spirits or gods. This is how we understand our world, how we find patterns in chaos. Here's the thing, our brains try to fill in the blanks. It's like a tree branch looking like a person at night for a second, or seeing a face in an electrical outlet. Your brain doesn't like empty spaces. It tries to connect dots, even if they aren't truly there. The figure on the bridge might be just light and shadow, but our minds, wanting to make sense, piece together a story, a potential presence. So, when we look at photos like this, we're not just seeing an image, we're seeing how our minds work, creating meaning from uncertainty. It reminds us that sometimes the deepest mysteries aren't outside us, but inside our own heads, where imagination meets the unknown. What truly chills us often isn't a clear threat, but the chilling possibility of something just beyond what we understand. Old bones in the field. Have you ever thought about what's left behind when everything else is gone? When the hustle and bustle of life fades and nature takes over, what traces remain? For many photographs we might see, especially older ones, the idea of old bones in the field isn't always about a frightening scene. Sometimes it's about a deep, quiet feeling, a silent echo from a time long past, a connection to history that is truly powerful. Here's the thing, bones are the ultimate storytellers. They can last for hundreds, even thousands of years, holding onto whispers of life that once moved, breathed, and felt just like us. When we find old bones, whether from an animal or a human, it's like discovering the very last, most enduring part of a journey. It connects us, in a very real way, to the past. Think about a quiet forest path you walk on often. Over years, your footsteps, and the footsteps of countless others, wear down the soil, creating a lasting groove. It's a small mark that shows people have been there, living their lives. Bones are like that, but much deeper, much older. For centuries, people have understood this. Ancient cultures would sometimes bury their dead in fields, allowing them to return to the earth, becoming part of the land itself. It was a way of honoring the cycle of life, understanding that even in ending, there's a kind of quiet belonging. The bones become part of the soil, feeding the grass, the trees, the very ground we walk on. So, in a way, they continue to give, to be part of the living world. It's a calm thought, but a strong one. Even after a very long time, something remains. And that's why it matters, because these old bones, found in quiet, often forgotten places, remind us that every single life leaves a trace. They are a humble record, connecting us to the vast, ongoing story of life on Earth, reminding us that we are all part of something much bigger and much older than ourselves. The picnic that never ended. Have you ever looked at an old photo and felt a strange calm, a quiet mystery? Imagine a picture where everyone seems to be having a good time, but something feels oddly still. What if the person sitting there, looking peaceful, isn't actually alive anymore? This might sound strange to us today, but there was a time, long ago, when photography was new and precious. For families who lost a loved one, especially a child, a photograph was sometimes their only way to truly remember them. People didn't have endless phone cameras or quick snapshots, so they found a way to freeze a moment, even after death. This was called post-mortem photography. They would pose their deceased family members, sometimes making them look like they were just sleeping, or perhaps even joining in a family scene, like a picnic that never truly ended. It wasn't about being spooky or morbid. It came from a deep, aching need to hold on to someone. Think about how you might keep a special piece of art a friend made for you, or a favorite old toy that reminds you of childhood. These things aren't alive, but they carry so many memories and feelings. A post-mortem photo was like that, but even more powerful. It was a way to reach across the divide of loss, to pretend for just a moment that their loved one was still with them, part of the family portrait. It was a final, tender goodbye captured forever. These images, quiet and unmoving, tell us a lot about what it means to be human. They remind us of how much we yearn to keep those we love close, even when they're gone. They show the silent strength of grief, and how people found comfort in remembering, in keeping a visible trace of life, even in death. It's a quiet whisper from the past, reminding us that love, in its many forms, seeks to endure beyond the end. Under the streetlight's glare, have you ever stood under a lone streetlight at night? It makes everything right around you sharp and clear. But think about what it doesn't show. the world just beyond its bright circle, hidden in deep shadows. A photograph is a lot like that streetlight. It captures a tiny slice of time, one small part of a bigger story, illuminated for us to see. Just one moment caught in a flash. For a long time, people believed that photos never lied. They were seen as pure truth, perfect copies of reality. But a camera is just a tool. It only sees what's directly in front of its lens, and what's bright enough to capture. It can't show us feelings, or sounds, or the moments just before or after. It can't show us the worry behind a calm face, only the face itself. Imagine taking a picture of your friend laughing. It looks happy, right? But maybe, just before the photo, they heard something sad. A piece of that sadness could still be in their eyes, even as they laugh. The camera captures the laugh, but the feeling, that's in the shadows. Just like a streetlight lights up a single tree, but you don't see the whole forest behind it. The photo is the tree in the light. Its backstory is the forest in the dark dot. So, when we look at old, unsettling photos, we're standing under that same kind of streetlight. We see the faces, the places, the objects, frozen in time. They seem so real, so clear, but we also sense the vast, unseen world surrounding them. We feel the weight of what's not shown, the whispers of the past. It makes us wonder about the full truth, stories waiting in the darkness beyond the frame. It reminds us to look deeper, knowing true pictures often hold secrets. A child's forgotten toy. Have you ever stumbled upon an old doll? Maybe a worn-out teddy bear, tucked away in a dusty attic or forgotten corner. It sits there, silent, perhaps a little broken, staring with glass eyes that seem to hold a story. It wasn't always like this. Once, this toy was a world. It was a confidant, a knight, a baby everything to a small hand that loved it fiercely. Here's the thing. These objects, especially children's toys, seem to soak up the feelings of their owners. They become quiet witnesses to countless moments of joy, tears, and pure imagination. It's not just a piece of plastic or cloth. It's a silent echo of a childhood that has long since passed. Think about it like a tree ring. Each ring tells of a year, good or bad, rainy or dry. A toy's scuff marks, its faded colors, even the faint scent of an old room, are like those rings. They tell a story of time spent, of a life lived beside it. Ancient people sometimes thought certain objects held the spirit of their owner. While we might not believe that literally today, there's still a deep truth in how much history and emotion we pour into our belongings. A toy left behind isn't creepy because of ghosts. It's creepy because it's a profound symbol of absence. It represents a life that moved on, leaving this small piece of its heart behind. It makes us wonder, where did that child go? What happened to the laughter that once filled this space? This can make us feel a little sad, but also thoughtful. It reminds us that everything changes. Our own childhoods will fade into memories, like the worn fabric of that forgotten bear. And when we see such a toy, it's a quiet reminder to cherish the present, to know that even the simplest objects carry the weight of our stories. It makes us reflect on what we leave behind, not just physically, but in the echoes of our joy and our presence. The door that won't close. Have you ever felt like some moments or images just stick with you? Like a door you've opened, but it won't quite swing shut again. This isn't about a physical door, but a truth or feeling that stays, always a little open, letting in a draft from another time. When we see something unsettling or truly powerful, it leaves a mark. It's like our minds build a little room, and the door to that room stays ajar. People throughout history have known this. Ancient stories and drawings often showed things that deeply moved or scared them, things they couldn't forget. It's how our minds work, holding on to what feels important, even if it's uncomfortable. Here's the thing. Remember hearing a song that kept playing in your head for hours after it stopped? Or seeing a movie scene you're still thinking about days later? That's a bit like a door that won't close. It's not always bothering you, but it's there, a gentle echo. These powerful images, especially the creepy ones, can do that too. They might show us something we wish we hadn't seen, but once it's in our minds, it becomes part of our story, and that's okay. Maybe some doors are meant to stay open, just a crack. They remind us of the quiet mysteries that exist. They don't have to scare us forever. Instead, they can become a gentle reminder that the world holds many kinds of truths, some comforting, some challenging. By allowing those doors to stay open, just a little, we learn to understand more about the world, and maybe a little more about ourselves. The lonely watcher. Have you ever felt like someone was watching you, even when you were completely alone? Not in a scary way, but just, a feeling, a presence. Maybe in an old house, or a quiet room, where shadows seem to hold more than just darkness. This feeling, this quiet echo, is like what we call a lonely watcher. It's not a person you can see, not a ghost that haunts. It's more like the silent, patient gaze of something that simply remains, long after everyone else is gone, watching the world pass by. Think about places left behind. An old, abandoned school. A faded photograph from a time long past, showing faces you'll never know. These things, these empty spaces, they don't move or speak, but they have seen things. They carry the weight of countless moments, becoming silent observers of history unfolding. From ancient ruins where forgotten kings once walked, to empty playgrounds where children's laughter used to echo. There's this strange, almost sad, sense that something is still paying attention, holding on to what was. Here's how it works. Imagine a small, forgotten teddy bear left on a dusty shelf in an attic. It doesn't judge, it doesn't interact, it simply sits there, taking in everything that happens, or doesn't happen, in that quiet space. It sees the dust settle, the light change. With the seasons, when you finally find it, it's like glimpsing the quiet, patient spirit of the room itself. It just is. It collects memories without ever making a sound, a quiet witness to time. So, a lonely watcher isn't about being afraid or spooky in the usual sense. It's about the quiet power of presence, even in absence. It's about how places and objects hold stories, waiting for someone to notice them again. It reminds us that even when we feel completely alone, the world around us, with its silent ancient observers, continues its patient watch. And in that, there's a strange calm beauty, a comforting sense of continuity. We are all, in a way, both the watchers and the watched, moving through a world full of quiet, lingering gazes that stretch far beyond us. Before the storm hit, have you ever noticed how quiet everything gets just before something really big happens? It's like the world holds its breath, a strange stillness settling over everything. For many of the unsettling images we'll explore, this quiet before part is key. These photos aren't shocking because they show chaos. Instead, they're disturbing because they capture moments of perfect, ordinary normalcy that, with hindsight, became anything but. Think about history. The calmest, most everyday scenes often existed just before huge world-changing events. People went about their days, took pictures, completely unaware of the future's shadow creeping closer. Philosophers talk about how humans live so much in the present, often blind to what lies ahead. We see what is, not what will be. This makes those before photos so haunting. They freeze a slice of innocent time, capturing a scene that feels calm, knowing what we know now. It's a bit like waking up to a perfectly clear, sunny morning. The sky is bright blue, everything feels fresh, and you might snap a picture. But then, hours later, a massive thunderstorm rolls in, lightning cracks, and the rain pours down. That peaceful morning photo suddenly feels different, doesn't it? It holds the ghost of a piece that was about to be completely shattered. The photo itself hasn't changed, but our understanding of the story we bring to it shifts entirely. So, as we prepare to look at these before the storm images, remember, we're not just seeing a simple moment. We're witnessing a fragile piece of reality, full of unknowing. It reminds us that every story, no matter how strange or unsettling, began in a place that probably felt very safe, very ordinary. And perhaps, it quietly teaches us to look a little deeper at the quiet moments around us, to sense the hidden layers of meaning beneath the surface of everyday life. A silent party guest. Have you ever looked at an old photo, maybe from a party or a family gathering, and spotted something strange? Not a smudge, but a detail that makes you pause. A figure perhaps, just on the edge of the frame, that you don't remember being there. This quiet, unsettling presence is what we call a silent party guest. It's about those pictures where everything seems normal, everyone's smiling, but then your eye catches something else. It's like a secret the camera accidentally held onto, a moment frozen that wasn't quite as simple as it first appeared. When we take a picture, we try to capture a specific memory, a happy time, but a photo is also a tiny slice of the world, and sometimes it holds more than we intend to snap. For centuries, people have wondered if cameras pick up things our eyes miss, maybe light, shadows, or even figures moving too fast. It's like a whisper from the past, hinting that what we see might not be the whole story. Imagine taking a photo of your friends laughing in the park. Later, looking at it, you notice a weird reflection in a window across the street, shaped almost like a face. Or maybe, far in the background, a person standing perfectly still, watching, who wasn't there when you looked up. These little details, often unnoticed in the moment, suddenly become the most powerful part of the picture. They sit there, quiet, just observing the scene, a guest that wasn't invited but appeared anyway. So when we look at these images, it's not just about what's creepy, it's about how photos can open our minds to mysteries hidden in plain sight. They make us wonder about what else might be sharing our space, even if we never notice. Looking closely at pictures can be a deep, thoughtful experience. It shows us that reality, sometimes, has more layers than we think, and that even in a joyful memory, a quiet, unexpected story can be waiting. The unblinking gaze. Do you ever look at an old photo and feel it's looking back at you? Like the eyes in the picture hold a secret, a story from long ago. That's what the unblinking gaze means. It's not about someone staring rudely. It's about an image, a moment frozen in time, holding its steady stare, never looking away. It's as if it holds a hidden truth. When cameras first came out, people found them almost magical. Before, to remember a face, you needed a painting or your own memory. A photograph felt like it captured a real piece of life, a moment that would never fade. So, with these old photos, especially the unsettling ones, it's like staring into a captured moment that stares back. The people are gone, but their fixed eyes are still there, witnessing something we can only guess at. Think about an old statue in a museum, or a mannequin. Their eyes are painted on, or made of glass. But sometimes, for a second, it feels like they're watching you, right? It's not real, of course, but our minds play tricks, making us feel that silent observation, that feeling of being seen by something that can't move or blink, that just holds its view, is what this gaze is about. Here's the thing, that unblinking gaze reminds us some moments, once they happen, are always there. They don't disappear. They leave echoes, not just in our memories, but sometimes, powerfully, in a single picture. It makes you wonder what they saw, what they felt, when the camera clicked. And what are they seeing now, as we look at them across the years? It's a quiet mystery, a silent conversation between past and present, inviting us to simply wonder. Secrets in the attic. Have you ever stepped into an old, quiet space, like an attic? The air there feels thick with untold stories. An attic is where we put things we don't use, daily objects tucked away, gathering dust and silence. They are silent, keepers of moments, whispers of lives, and secrets held deep inside. Forgotten truths work this way. Secrets don't disappear, they just wait. Families and towns often have stories they never tell, or pasts they try to forget. These hidden truths wait, gathering dust in memory, until light finally reaches them. Here's the thing about a photograph. It shows us a surface, a moment frozen. But what if that photo, simple as it seems, is like a door to an attic? What if it's true? Disturbing backstory is hidden away. The image is in the light, but its real truth often hides in the shadows, like a secret in a dusty box. Imagine finding an old family photo. Everyone smiles. Then you hear a story, years later, about a sad event right after that picture, something never talked about. The photo is the surface. That untold story is the hidden attic truth, changing everything you thought you knew. So, when we look at creepy photos, we're not just seeing a picture, we sense an attic behind it. There's a hidden layer, a truth buried by time or choice. These hidden truths are what make an image so haunting. The past, even tucked away, always casts a long shadow. What we don't see often holds the deepest power. The garden's hidden horror. Have you ever looked at something truly beautiful, like a peaceful garden, and felt a tiny shiver, as if something unseen was just beneath the surface? Sometimes, the most innocent-looking scenes can hold the deepest, quietest secrets. These photos often do that. They show us what seems ordinary, but they whisper of something unsettling, hidden just out of sight. It makes you wonder, doesn't it? What if the prettiest flowers grew from the darkest soil? For a long time, people have thought about how good and bad can exist right next to each other, like light and shadow. It's not a new idea. This feeling that even in the brightest places, there might be a whisper of something else, something we don't usually see or talk about. Think about an old house, all sunny and bright on the outside, but if you step inside, you might feel a chill, an echo of all the lives lived there, the joys and the sadness that soaked into the walls. Here's the thing, our minds are really good at seeing what's obvious. We see the sunshine, the green leaves, the gentle smile. But these photos gently push us to look past that first glance. It's a bit like when you see someone smiling, but you know deep down they might be going through a really hard time. The outside looks fine, but the inside holds something else, something quietly heavy. So when we look at a picture like this, it makes us wonder about the hidden stories, the quiet fears that bloom where we least expect them. It reminds us to look deeper, to feel the echoes of things unseen, and to understand that beauty and shadow are often woven together, like roots beneath a garden, supporting something we might not fully grasp, but which is definitely there. An audience of shadows when you look at an old, faded photograph, especially one that feels strange or sad. Do you ever get the feeling you're not alone? It's almost like other eyes are watching it with you. Not real people, but something else, a quiet presence. We call this an audience of shadows. It's the quiet sense that images, especially those from long ago, are watched, not just by us, but by the memories they hold. They carry whispers of the past, echoes of the people, and moments captured within them. Before cameras, paintings tried to capture a person or moment. People even believed a drawing could hold a bit of a person's spirit. Photography felt like magic. You could suddenly freeze an exact moment. These moments became powerful. They let us look back, almost like peeking through a window into another time, another life. It's kind of like looking up at the night sky. When you see a distant star, its light has traveled for years, even centuries, to reach your eyes. You're not seeing the star as it is right now, but as it was long ago. A photograph is similar. It's light from a past moment, bringing that past right into our present. We are looking at history, raw and clear. As we gaze at these pictures, especially unsettling ones, we become part of that audience. We bring our thoughts, our feelings, our questions to these silent scenes. We give them new life, new meaning, simply by witnessing them. We join the shadows of the past, standing together, wondering. We connect to those moments and to all who have looked upon them. The hand in the photograph. Have you ever seen a picture where just a small part of it makes you feel deeply, like a single object or a quiet detail, maybe a shadow, or even just a hand? Think about it. A photograph freezes a moment, right? It takes a slice of time and holds it still forever. But sometimes, what's not fully shown, what's just hinted at, is what truly makes us wonder, or feel a chill. Consider a photograph that features only a hand. It could be reaching, or clutching, or simply resting. We don't see the face, or the body, or the setting, just that one hand. But it's enough. That isolated hand can tell us a whole story, or make us imagine 1,000. It carries a silent, wait, is it a hand saying goodbye? Is it a hand reaching for help? Or perhaps a hand that has just let go of something precious? Historically, artists and photographers have known this power. They understood that sometimes, less is more. By showing only a fragment, they invite our minds to fill in the blanks. It's a bit like when you see a single lost mitten on the playground. You don't see the child who lost it, or their family, or why it was dropped. But that one mitten makes you pause. You might imagine a child running off to play, or maybe someone feeling sad because their hand is now cold. That one object, small as it is, sparks a whole story in your mind. The hand in a photograph works the same way. It's not just skin and bone, it becomes a symbol. It becomes a silent witness to something we can only guess at. And that guessing, that quiet feeling of not knowing everything, is what can make a picture truly unsettling. It reminds us that, sometimes, the deepest fears and biggest questions aren't loud. They whisper from the smallest details, lingering long after we've looked away. Through the grimy window, have you ever looked at an old faded picture, maybe of someone you don't even know, and felt a strange pull? Like you're looking through a dusty window into a moment long gone. Photos are amazing like that. They freeze time, but here's the thing. Sometimes, these windows are grimy, covered in the dirt of history. They don't show us everything. They just show a small, frozen piece of what was happening. Imagine you're trying to see clearly through a window that hasn't been cleaned in years. You can make out shapes, maybe some colors, but the details are hazy. You know there's more out there, more to the scene, but you can't quite grasp it. That's often what it's like with old creepy photos. We see the image, but the true story, the disturbing backstory, is hidden behind the grime. For a long time, having a photograph taken was a big deal. It wasn't like today, where we snap pictures all the time. Back then, it was expensive and took a long time to do. So, when people posed, they often tried to look their best, or they were trying to capture a very specific feeling. But life, especially in the past, was often hard. People dealt with sickness, loss, and difficult times that we can barely imagine. So a simple smile in a picture might hide a world of sadness just outside the camera's view. Think of it like this. You might post a perfect picture of yourself laughing with friends, but you just had a really tough day at school. The photo doesn't show that other part, and that's why these grimier photos are so powerful. They make us wonder not just about what we see, but about what we don't see. They invite us to think about the real lives, the real feelings, and the hidden struggles of people who lived long ago. It's a way to connect with history, not just as facts, but as a series of real human experiences. Sometimes beautiful, sometimes unsettling. It reminds us that every image holds more than meets the eye. A friend in the corner. Have you ever looked at something really strange, maybe even a little scary, and then suddenly you spot something familiar? It could be a shape, a shadow, or even just a feeling. It's like your mind is searching for a tiny bit of comfort, a small anchor in a sea of the unknown. We call this a friend in the corner. Here's the thing, our brains are built to look for patterns. They want to make sense of the world, even when the world is confusing or unsettling. When we see something that makes us uneasy, our minds might try to find something known, something safe, inside that discomfort. It's a bit like a survival trick. Long, long ago, when humans lived in caves, seeing a familiar tree shape in the dark forest meant less danger than seeing a monster. Our minds still do this today. They try to turn the unknown into something a little bit known. Think about it this way. Have you ever seen a cloud that looks exactly like a dog, or a face on the moon? That's your brain trying to find something recognizable in random shapes. It's called pareidolia, but it's really just our minds trying to connect the dots. Or imagine you're watching a suspenseful movie, and just as things get really tense, the main character's familiar lucky charm briefly appears. That small, familiar detail can give you a tiny moment of relief, a little internal sigh. It's not that the danger is gone, but for a second, you've found something steady. So, when we look at photos that are unsettling, our minds sometimes quietly try to find that friend in the corner. It might be a small detail that looks like something from everyday life, or just a hint of humanity in a very strange scene. This act of finding a familiar point reminds us how deeply we crave connection and understanding. It shows us that even in places where we expect only fear, our minds are always seeking a pathway back to what feels safe, what feels human. It's a quiet reminder of our hope, even when we don't realize it. A child's silent scream. Have you ever looked at a photograph, especially one of a child, and felt a quiet sadness settle deep inside you? There's no sound, no spoken word, but you sense a deep, quiet pain, almost like a scream that can't get out. This is what we mean by a silent scream. It's not something you hear with your ears, but something you feel with your heart. It's the kind of hidden suffering that leaves a mark, a story told without words, through a child's eyes or posture. Here's the thing. Humans have always tried to understand what's happening inside each other, even when people are quiet. Long ago, thinkers and storytellers knew that sometimes the biggest pains are the ones we can't speak about. It's like how a brave knight in an old tale might stand tall but carry a heavy sorrow in their heart, unseen by others. Their face might be calm, but their spirit is crying out. Think about a time you felt really, really upset, but you couldn't, or didn't want to, tell anyone. Maybe you just went to your room and stared out the window. On the outside, you were quiet. No shouts, no tears that anyone saw. But inside your head, your feelings were loud, maybe even yelling. That's a bit like a silent scream. Your body might be still, but your emotions are in turmoil. We see this often in photos. A child's face might be blank, but there's a certain look in their eyes, a quiet tension in their shoulders that tells a powerful story. It makes you wonder what they've seen, what they've been through. It's a reminder to look closer, to be gentle, and to remember that sometimes the most profound cries for help are heard, not with our ears, but with empathy and an open heart. It teaches us to be more observant and kind, always. The path less traveled. Have you ever wondered what happens just beyond the edge of what everyone else sees? What if the most important stories aren't always found on the main road? Sometimes, the truest understanding lies on the path less traveled. This phrase means looking for what's hidden, what's not immediately obvious. It's about choosing to dig deeper, to question, to seek out the quiet truths that whisper from the shadows, rather than just accepting what's right in front of you. It's where the real learning often happens. Think about how humans have always been curious. From ancient times, people wanted to know what was beyond the next mountain, or why the stars moved. They didn't just accept the surface. This deep need to explore, to uncover secrets, is a powerful part of who we are. It's not just about finding new places. It's about finding new ways of seeing. Many wise people have said that knowing things isn't just about facts, but about understanding the deeper meaning behind them. Here's an example. Imagine you're trying to figure out a trick in a magic show. You could just clap and be amazed. Or, you could watch closely, try to see the small, quick movements the magician makes, the things everyone else misses. That's taking the path less traveled. You're not just watching the grand gesture. You're looking for the subtle detail, the one that explains everything. Or, in science, a scientist doesn't just look at the apple falling. They ask, why did it fall? What invisible force pulled it? So, when we look at certain images or stories, it's not enough to just see the surface. The deepest impacts come from asking, what else is here? What led to this? What does this tell us about the human experience? Sometimes, the most unsettling pictures are also the ones that make us think the hardest, that invite us to journey into the less comfortable, but often more profound, spaces of understanding. It asks us to be brave enough to look at what might be difficult, knowing it can lead to a richer, more thoughtful view of the world. A room full of dolls. Have you ever walked into a room full of dolls and felt a strange quietness? It's not just the silence of an empty space, it's the quiet of many figures, all staring. They seem to hold a breath they cannot truly take. And that can feel a little creepy. Dots have been part of human life for thousands of years. Ancient people made them as toys, or to represent gods and ancestors. They were never just pieces of wood or cloth. They were stand-ins for something real, something alive. We give them faces, clothes. We put our own expectation into them. But here's the thing about a room full of them. Each doll is almost human. It has eyes, a mouth, sometimes hair, yet it doesn't move, breathe, or blink. Our brains are good at telling what's alive. When something looks almost human but isn't quite, our minds get confused. Think of a drawing where a face is almost right, but one eye is too big. Your brain knows it's off. This feeling is called the uncanny valley. Consider a robot in a movie. If it looks exactly like a person, we're fine. If clearly a machine, that's fine too. But if it looks almost human, with stiff movements or empty eyes, it feels weird. A room full of dolls can feel the same. They are like a silent crowd, reflecting our ideas of life, but without the spark. So, when you see a photo of a room full of dolls, remember, it's not the dolls themselves that are creepy. It's our minds trying to make sense of something that looks alive but isn't. It's our imagination filling in the blanks, turning stillness into something watchful. This makes us wonder what quiet stories they might hold. It's a gentle mystery, making us think about what it means to be alive. The stolen smile. Have you ever looked at an old photograph and wondered about the person in it? Not just what they wore, or where they stood, but what they truly felt. Sometimes, a picture can hold a smile that isn't quite real. It's a smile that was stolen, not literally taken, but perhaps covered up, or forced. Maybe a sad story was about to unfold right after the camera clicked. This idea of a stolen smile makes us think about what a photo truly captures. Is it just light and shadow, frozen in time? Or is it something deeper, a whisper of a life lived long ago? Some believed photos could capture a part of your spirit. We know it's just a chemical process now, but there's still truth in that old idea. A photo does hold a piece of who you were in that exact second, and if that moment holds pain, or a hidden worry, even a bright smile can't always hide it from someone looking closely. With a curious heart, think about it this way. Imagine you're feeling really down about something. Maybe a test you didn't do well on, or a friend who upset you. But then someone takes a quick picture. You probably flash a smile, right? A quick, almost automatic smile. but inside, you're still feeling that sadness. The photo shows a happy face, but your heart remembers the truth. That's a tiny, everyday version of a stolen smile. The photo takes the happy moment, but the real feeling, the true story, stays hidden underneath, known only to you. So, when we see an old, unsettling photo, especially one with a backstory of real trouble or loss, we start to look past the surface. We might wonder if the smile was a shield, or a memory of a joy that was about to disappear. It reminds us that appearances can be tricky, and the deepest stories often aren't found on the surface. It's a quiet reminder to look beyond what's easy to see, and to feel for the hidden echoes of life. Footprints in the snow. Have you ever stopped to really look at a footprint? Not just any mark, but one left deeply in fresh snow or soft mud. Imagine a quiet winter morning, the world hushed and white. You step outside, and your boot sinks, leaving a perfect outline. For a moment, it's just a shape, a simple impression. But then, you think about it. That mark proves you were there, a silent witness. Here's the thing about footprints. They tell a story without words. They show direction, how fast someone moved, or if they paused. They're a piece of the past, left in the present, hinting at a future that moved beyond that spot. For hundreds of years, humans have looked at tracks, trying to figure out what animal passed by, or if another person was near. It's an old way of understanding the world. And its creatures, it's like when you see a chalk drawing on the sidewalk after a rainstorm. Most of it might be gone, just a faint smear, but you can still tell something was there. You know someone spent time creating it, even if the image fades. The mark is almost gone, but the idea of it, the echo of its existence, remains. Sometimes, the most chilling thing about a photograph isn't what it shows, but what it implies. A single footprint in a vast, empty landscape can feel incredibly lonely. It makes you wonder, whose foot was it? Where did they go? Were they alone? A photo of a solitary footprint isn't creepy like a monster is. Instead, it's creepy because it makes you feel something deeper, a sense of human presence, now absent, leaving only a ghost of itself behind. It reminds us that everything leaves a mark, however brief, and sometimes, those faint, quiet marks speak the loudest. They whisper about lives lived, moments passed, and stories never fully told. The house on the hill. Have you ever walked past an old house, maybe one sitting alone on a hill, and just felt something? Not seen something, but truly felt it. It's a strange quiet, isn't it? A feeling that the walls themselves have absorbed. Whispers, tears, and everyday joys over many, many years. See, a house isn't just wood and brick. It's a container. It holds moments, large and small. It holds laughter that echoed in the hallways and arguments that faded into silence. People have felt this connection to places for a long, long time. Ancient cultures, for example, believed that places had their own spirits, a sense of being. They weren't just empty spaces. They were filled with the history of what happened there, and that's why an old house can feel so heavy, so full of untold stories. Think about your own school building on a Saturday. It's the same halls, the same classrooms, but it feels completely different, right? Without all the people, the noise, the energy, it feels quiet, almost like it's holding its breath, waiting for Monday morning. It's still just a building, but the feeling of it changes because the activity, the human presence, is gone. It's just an empty stage where so much has happened. So when we look at photos of houses that seem to hold dark secrets, or just feel deeply unsettling, it's often because we're sensing that echo. We're not just seeing an image, we're imagining the lives that unfolded there, the secrets hidden within those silent walls, the emotions that stained the very air. These places become like quiet guardians of memory, whether those memories are warm and comforting, or chilling and deeply unsettling. And that's why a house on a lonely hill can feel so much more than just a house. It feels like a story waiting to be heard, or perhaps a silence that holds too much. A figure in the distance. Have you ever looked at an old photograph, maybe a really old one? Your eyes might drift to the background. You could spot something almost hidden, a shape. It's not quite clear. Is it a person, an animal, or just a trick of light and shadow? This is the mystery of a figure in the distance. It's about what we see but can't quite make out. It remains blurry, out of focus. Our minds are challenged. Our eyes pick up something, but our brains work hard to fill in the missing pieces. We try to give meaning to what isn't fully shown. Long ago, Before clear cameras, the world held unclear sights. Imagine ancient people looking across a misty field at dusk, or seeing a strange shadow in deep woods. Their minds tried to fill gaps. They didn't know what was there, so their imaginations took over. This is how old stories of strange creatures or ghosts began. It comes from a human need to make sense of the unknown. Here's an everyday example. Think about walking home at night. You spot a strange shape down the street. For a second, your heart might beat faster. Is it someone standing there? What are they doing? But as you get closer, you realize it's just a mailbox or a bush shaped oddly. Your mind created a quick story, a feeling of worry, based on very little information, and that's why some photos can feel so unsettling. They capture that split second of uncertainty. They don't give us all the answers. Instead, they invite us to wonder, to imagine, to let our own minds fill the empty spaces. The unease isn't just in the photo itself, it's in the questions it leaves. It plays with our urge to understand everything we see, especially when it's just a blur. Sometimes, what we don't fully see can be far more powerful than what we do. The reflection that wasn't there. You ever stop to really look at your own reflection? Not just a quick glance, but a moment where you see yourself staring back. It's a familiar sight, isn't it? Our world is full of reflections in still water, polished glass, or even just the shine of a wet sidewalk after rain. We expect things to bounce light back, to show us a mirror image of what's in front of them. So, here's the thing. What if something didn't? What if you looked at a surface that should reflect, but it just showed nothing? This idea of a missing reflection, or one that's just wrong, can feel deeply unsettling. For a long time, people have wondered about reflections, seeing them as more than just light bouncing. Some old stories, from different parts of the world, whispered that a person's reflection held a piece of their soul. If your reflection was gone, maybe a part of you was gone too. This wasn't about science. It was about a deeper feeling, a way to understand things we couldn't explain. So, if a vampire, in those old tales, had no reflection, it meant they weren't truly alive, not in the human sense. They were outside the natural order of things, a shadow with no return. Think about it like this. When you throw a ball against a wall, you expect it to bounce back, right? That's how we understand the world works. But imagine you throw the ball, and it just disappears, or it passes through the wall. That's the kind of strange, almost impossible feeling you're missing. Reflection gives us. Our brains want to make sense of the world, to see patterns and rules. And when those rules are broken, even in a picture, it can make us pause. It makes us think about what's real, and what isn't, and what might be hiding just beyond our sight. It reminds us that sometimes, the emptiest spaces can hold the biggest mysteries. The girl with empty eyes. Have you ever looked at a picture and felt a shiver? Not because of something scary you saw, but because of something you didn't see. That's often the feeling when we talk about the girl with empty eyes. It's not always about a specific photo, but an unsettling idea. Eyes that look straight at you, yet seem to hold nothing inside. No emotion, no thought, no spark of life. Just a blankness that feels wrong. For a long time, people have thought of eyes as the windows to a person's soul. They show us if someone is happy, sad, or curious. They connect us to others. Think about it. When you talk to someone, you usually look into their eyes to understand them better. So, when eyes appear truly empty, it goes against what we expect. It can feel like something essential is missing, like the person inside isn't really there, or isn't experiencing the world in a way we understand. It makes us wonder what could cause such a void. Here's the thing. It's kind of like looking at a mannequin in a store window. It has perfectly shaped eyes, maybe even eyelashes and painted pupils. But no matter how real it looks, you know it's not alive. It doesn't blink, it doesn't follow you with its gaze, and there's no thinking. Behind those pretty glass eyes, that blank stare is harmless on a mannequin, but imagine seeing it in a real person, in a photograph frozen in time. That's what creates such a powerful, unsettling feeling. It's the difference between looking at something and feeling truly seen by it. So, maybe the chill we feel from empty eyes isn't just about the photo itself. It might be about our own deep human need for connection. We want to see life and emotion reflected back at us. When we don't, when we see a void instead, it reminds us of how fragile that connection can be, and how truly unsettling it is when it simply isn't there. It makes us think about what it means to truly be present, and how much we rely on those subtle signals in each other's eyes to feel safe and understood in the world. Where the trees whisper. Have you ever walked into a quiet place, maybe an old building or a deep forest, and felt a strange calm, like the air itself held a secret, or something had happened there long ago? It's a feeling many of us share, this sense that places can carry memories, even sad ones. This idea is as old as people are. Humans have long felt that nature, especially vast forests, can witness events and somehow keep their echoes. It's less about ghosts and more about the energy of what happened soaking into the land, into the trees and soil. Ancient cultures often saw trees as wise, silent watchers, standing for centuries. They believed these natural spots held stories, sometimes peaceful, sometimes deeply unsettling. Here's the thing, our own experiences can feel like this too. Imagine your school building late at night, completely empty. It feels different, right? Not scary, but quiet and vast, like all the voices and laughter from the day are just ... paused. Or think about a park, where you had a really important talk with a friend. Going back there, you might feel a soft echo of that conversation, even if no one else notices. Places absorb our emotions, our histories, our joy, and our sorrow. So, when we look at certain photos, especially those taken in natural settings, like dark woods, we might feel a shiver that goes beyond just what we see. It's a lingering echo. It's the quiet whisper of a moment that unfolded there, frozen in time. The trees stand silent, but the weight of what happened among them, the human story in that exact spot, it stays. It reminds us how deeply our lives are connected to the ground we walk on, and how even the most peaceful landscapes can hold a kind of quiet, sad truth from the past. A message from the past. Have you ever really looked at an old photograph? I mean, truly looked. Not just at the faces or the clothes, but felt something deeper, like a quiet whisper reaching out from a moment long, long ago. A photograph isn't just paper or pixels. It's a tiny time capsule, holding a fraction of a second from a past that exists no more, except in that image. Here's the thing. When light bounces off a person or a scene and hits a camera lens, that light carries information. From that exact instant, it's like a secret messenger. It travels incredibly fast, but it still travels. So, when you look at a photo, you're not just seeing a picture. You are seeing the actual light that existed in that precise moment. You're seeing what was not. What is? It's a direct connection, a delicate thread pulled from the fabric of time. Think about the stars at night. Many are so far away that the light reaching your eyes left them thousands or millions of years ago. You are literally looking at the past. A photograph works in a similar way. The light that created that scene, that landed on the film or sensor, is a silent echo. It's a memory made visible, from a moment that once vibrated with real life. And that's why these old photos, sometimes haunting or unsettling, carry so much quiet power. They are more than just pictures. They are direct messages. They are moments frozen forever, carrying the feelings, the untold stories, and the echoes of people who lived and breathed in that specific second. They remind us that every moment, every single life, leaves a trace. We are connected to the past through these fragile, strong glimpses. They quietly invite us to listen to what they might be telling us. They show us that human experience, in all its forms, is truly timeless. The broken mirror. Have you ever looked at a broken mirror? Not just a crack, but shards, pieces scattered everywhere. What do you see? Your reflection, yes, but it's twisted, splintered into many versions of you. It's strange, right? It makes you wonder if anything is truly whole, or if everything just shatters eventually. For a long time, people have thought of mirrors as more than just glass. Ancient cultures, like the Romans, believed a mirror held a person's soul. So, if a mirror broke, it wasn't just glass breaking, it was like a part of you was broken too. This led to the old superstition about 7 years of bad luck. It wasn't just about clumsiness. It was about the idea that your very essence had been disturbed. It's a powerful thought, that an object could hold so much meaning. It makes us think about how we see ourselves, and how that view can be easily broken. Think about when something you truly believed in suddenly changes. Maybe you thought a friend was a certain way, and then something happens, and you see them completely differently. It's like a mirror shattering. Your old view of them, that perfect, clear image, breaks into pieces, and suddenly, you're left with all these new, sometimes confusing, fragments of who they are, or who you thought they were. It's not necessarily good or bad, but it's different. It forces you to put the pieces back together, but they might not fit the same way. And that's the thing about broken mirrors, both real ones and the ones in our minds. When something breaks, it doesn't mean it's useless or gone forever. It just means the way we see it, or the way we see ourselves, has changed. It can be a little scary, seeing those jagged edges, but it also lets in new light, new perspectives. Maybe those new pieces, though imperfect, show a truer, more complex picture. It's a reminder that even when things seem shattered, there's always a new way to look, a new way to understand. And sometimes, that broken view is the one that helps us grow. The town's dark secret. Have you ever walked past an old house and felt it held secrets? Like the walls could whisper stories from long ago. Sometimes, it's not just a single building. Sometimes, whole towns carry such stories, not just tales of people, but of big, unsettling events that happened there years before. It's like history isn't just in books. It lives in the very air, in the quiet corners of places, and sometimes what has lived there is a secret, hidden away because it was too painful, too strange, or too difficult to face. Towns, like people, can have memories they wish to bury deep, maybe a great sadness, a mistake, or something truly unsettling that everyone decided was better left unspoken. They want to forget, but the past lingers. Think about when you've done something you regret, something you'd rather no one ever knew. Maybe you spilled paint on the carpet, and you just wanted to cover it up, pretend it never happened. You might put a rug over it, or rearrange furniture, but the stain is still there, under the surface, a quiet reminder. Towns can do that too, with events that leave a deep mark on their very soul. They build new things, paint over old walls, but the echo of what happened remains. So, when we look at photos from places like these, pictures of seemingly ordinary streets or buildings, we aren't just seeing structures, we're catching a glimpse of a profound silence, a history that speaks without words, if only we listen closely. It reminds us that sometimes, the most disturbing things aren't always seen directly. They are felt, like a cold breeze, an echo of a hidden sorrow, a dark secret that time itself struggles to completely wash away. It teaches us to look deeper, to listen to the quiet whispers of the past, and to understand that even the most peaceful-looking place can hide a profound pain. Every place has a story, and some are heavier than others. A game of hide-and-seek. Cave. You ever felt like something was just out of reach, a truth whispered but not quite heard? It's a common feeling. We all play a version of hide-and-seek, not just on a playground, but in the quiet corners of our lives and in the vast world. This isn't about physical spaces. It's a deeper game of seeking what is hidden. Maybe it's a forgotten memory, a quiet truth, or a deeper meaning in something familiar. This pursuit, this gentle looking for what's unseen, is a fundamental part of being human. Think about it. From the earliest times, people have been fascinated by what's unseen. Ancient storytellers wove tales of hidden lands and secret powers. Philosophers, too, wondered about the hidden nature of reality, asking if what we perceive is truly all there is. This deep curiosity, this urge to pull back the curtain on the unknown, is woven into who we are. It's why we explore vast oceans, why we gaze at distant stars, and why we never stop asking why. Here's the thing. Sometimes, what's hidden isn't far away at all. It might be right in front of us, disguised as something ordinary. Think about how a scientist seeks tiny particles they can't see with their eyes. They use powerful tools and patient observation to understand a hidden universe. Or imagine an author who weaves a subtle clue into a story, knowing only the most careful reader will spot it. This can help you understand that often, the most important discoveries are made when we look closer at what we thought we already knew. We turn over stones in familiar places. So, this game of hide-and-seek isn't just about finding something specific and then stopping. It's also deeply about the process of looking, of noticing the subtle hints, of listening to the whispers. It's about becoming aware of the layers beneath the surface, the untold stories, the quiet feelings, unshared, the beauty residing in what's not immediately obvious. When we search with a gentle heart and an open mind, even without a clear answer, we often discover something profound about ourselves, about the intricate world. There's a quiet grace in knowing some truths patiently wait to be found, and some are beautiful precisely because they remain a gentle secret, inviting us to keep wondering. The mannequin's life. What if something completely still, something made of plastic or wood, could hold a kind of silent life? Think about a mannequin. They stand there, perfect and unmoving, dressed in clothes we might wear. They have faces, sometimes even hair, and they look almost human, but they don't breathe. They don't blink. This is where the strange feeling comes from, isn't it? That quiet, unmoving presence that seems to watch, but never moves. Here's the thing. Humans have always made figures that look like us. Go back thousands of years, and you'll find ancient statues, or the very first dolls. We give them eyes, a face, and our minds naturally try to imagine them living. It's how we're wired. We see human shapes, and our brains try to find the person inside. It's almost an instinct. This can help you understand why mannequins can feel so eerie. It's a bit like when you were a small kid, and your favorite stuffed animal felt like it had feelings, like it was watching you sleep. Or maybe you've seen a robot that moves almost like a person, but not quite. That tiny difference, that almost but not quite, can make your brain feel a little confused, a little uneasy. In psychology, there's even a name for this feeling, when something is very close to human but still clearly isn't. It can make us feel a strange sense of discomfort. Mannequins live in this space. They reflect us, showing us what we look like in new clothes. But they are empty. They have no thoughts, no emotions. And in that silence, that emptiness, maybe, we find our own questions about what truly makes something alive. They remind us that sometimes, the creepiest things are the quiet, empty reflections of ourselves staring back. The uninvited guest. Have you ever felt a shiver, a tiny whisper of unease, when something appears where it doesn't belong? Not a person knocking, but something less solid, a presence, a feeling, or even a memory that just shows up without an invitation. Here's the thing. Sometimes the creepiest moments aren't about monsters, but the quiet, unexpected arrival of something that simply disrupts our peace. Think about your room. It feels safe. It's yours. But what if, one day, you looked up and saw a shadow that wasn't supposed to be there? Not from a lamp, not from the window, just there. For a long time, across different cultures, people have told stories about things that cross boundaries. Spirits, unseen forces, or strange sounds entering a home. A place meant for safety. These old stories teach us how fragile our sense of control can be. They show us that some things just are, and they don't ask permission to exist in our space. It's like when you're working on a quiet puzzle, focused, and then suddenly, a piece from a different puzzle is just ... There it breaks the pattern. It makes you wonder how it got there. Or imagine you were listening to calm music, and then a loud, jarring sound suddenly cuts through. It throws you off. That feeling, that moment of what was that? That's the uninvited guest. It's the unexpected, the out of place. It reminds us that life isn't always neat. It makes us pause, look closer, and wonder about things that exist beyond our understanding, waiting to step into view. It's a quiet reminder that the world holds many surprises, and not all fit neatly into our plans. We learn to notice them, these quiet moments, and maybe even find a strange kind of beauty in their mystery. A glimpse of another time. Have you ever looked at a really old photograph and felt a strange pull? It's like staring through a window into a world that no longer exists, a moment frozen long ago. These pictures aren't just faded pieces of paper. They are tiny portals. They show us people who lived, breathed, and thought, just like we do now. But they lived in a then that feels so far from our now. Think about it. The people in these photos had their own daily routines. They had favorite foods, walked different streets, maybe used tools or technologies we can barely imagine. Their worries might have been about finding food, or getting through a harsh winter, or letters arriving. Their joys could have been as simple as a sunny day, or a new invention. Each face, each pose, whispers a story we can only guess at. It's a bit like when you find an old drawing you made as a really little kid. The lines are wobbly, the colors bright, and you might barely remember it, but it shows you a tiny piece of who you once were. That drawing is a glimpse into your own past, a time when your thoughts and feelings were different. Old photographs do something similar, but for a whole world of people who came before us. When we look at these images, especially the eerie ones, we're not just seeing strange sights. We are feeling the distance of time. We're connecting with human experiences, both familiar and completely foreign. It makes you wonder about the echoes they left behind, and it reminds us that our own lives, right now, are just moments passing. Someday, our now will be someone else's another time, a faded glimpse into a distant past. And maybe, just maybe, our photos will carry whispers of our stories too. The well's deep mystery. Have you ever looked into something so deep and dark that your mind starts to fill in the blanks? Wells, especially old, forgotten ones, often hold this kind of power. They are like quiet mouths of the earth, leading down into shadows. A photograph of a deep well might look simple, but what truly makes it creepy is the story we imagine at its bottom. For centuries, people have thought about wells in many ways. Sometimes, they were seen as sources of life, pure water, or even places where wishes could come true. But other times, they were known as silent keepers of secrets, dark places where things were thrown to be hidden forever. Think of old folk tales, where valuable items, or even terrible truths, disappear down a well's throat, never to be seen again. This idea, this hidden history, makes us feel a certain chill. Here's the thing, that feeling of the unknown is very real. Imagine you drop something really special, maybe a grandparent's old watch, down a dark grate in the street. You can't reach it, you can't see it, but you know it's there, lost in the dark, gathering dust, and forgotten by everyone but you. That feeling of a lost, unseen thing, hidden away and perhaps waiting, is what makes a well so unsettling. So, when we see a picture of a deep well, we're not just looking at rocks and water, we're looking at all the possibilities, all the what-ifs. The truly eerie part often isn't what's visible, but what our minds create in the vast, unseen space below. And sometimes, the deepest mysteries are the ones that never give up their answers, leaving us to simply wonder. It's in that wondering, that quiet, soft question mark, where the real mystery truly lives. A child's last drawing. Have you ever thought about what your drawings mean? Not just the good ones, but maybe the ones you made when you were feeling something big. Sometimes, a simple drawing can carry a weight so heavy, a message so quiet, it echoes through time. We're talking about a child's last drawing. Imagine a small hand, holding a crayon or a pencil, creating shapes and colors on a piece of paper. This isn't just art, it's often a window. It's a final whisper from a world about to change forever. Throughout history, people have always found ways to leave a mark, to say I was here, or this is how I felt. Even in the toughest times, when words failed, art became the language. Children, especially, use drawings to make sense of their world. Even when that world is scary or confusing. It's like when you're trying to explain something really complicated, but words just aren't enough. So you draw a diagram, right? A child's drawing is often that, but for their whole experience, it's like finding a message in a bottle from a shipwrecked sailor. It might be simple, but it tells a massive story. These drawings aren't about artistic skill. They are about raw emotion, about what mattered most in that last moment. Maybe it's a family, a toy, or just a bright sun in a dark sky. And here's the thing about these final pictures. They become incredibly powerful. They aren't just paper and crayon. They are echoes. They remind us of innocence, of lives cut short, and of the enduring human need to create, to connect. Even when facing something huge and difficult, they make us pause and think about the quiet strength found even in the smallest of gestures. The forest's silent call. Have you ever walked deep into a forest, where the trees stretch so high they seem to touch the clouds, where the light filters down in soft, green rays, and the air feels ancient? It's often incredibly quiet there. But sometimes, that quiet isn't empty. It feels like it's holding a breath, or like something is just listening. This feeling, that the forest is alive, and maybe watching, is super old. For thousands of years, people have looked at deep woods and felt a mix of awe and a tiny bit of worry. Think about old fairy tales, the kind where brave heroes wander into the woods and face mysterious creatures, or where lost children stumble upon hidden paths. The forest is often where the real adventure, or even the real danger, begins. Here's the thing, our brains are kind of wired to be cautious in places we don't fully understand. It's like when you're home alone at night, and the wind outside makes a strange creaking noise. Your mind instantly starts to fill in the blanks. Is it just the wind, or is it something else? In the forest, that feeling is amplified. Every snap of a twig, every rustle of leaves, can sound louder, more meaningful. It's a vast, breathing world, full of things we can't always see or fully explain. The forest isn't necessarily trying to scare us. Instead, it seems to be calling us to be still, to really listen. Those whispers carried on the breeze. The shadows that dance at the edge of your sight, they're part of its silent language. It reminds us how small we are, but also how much wild, untouched beauty exists. It tells us that the world is much bigger and older than we are, full of stories whispered by the wind and etched into the bark of ancient trees. And sometimes, the deepest understanding comes not from answers, but from the quiet wonder of the unknown. The train to nowhere. Have you ever looked at an old photo and wondered about the people in it? Not just what they were doing, but where they were truly going. What if their journey never quite reached a clear destination? Sometimes, in history, pictures capture just this, a journey to nowhere. These aren't always about a real train, of course. They speak of lives, hopes, or whole communities that simply disappeared, like a silent carriage moving into a thick fog. They leave us with deep, lingering questions. It's about the feeling of something being cut short, or a path that simply vanishes. Think about old, abandoned places that once buzzed with life, now quiet and forgotten. Or imagine old letters, half-written, that speak of a future that never arrived. These photos whisper about what's lost. They tell of the quiet echoes of people who were here, but whose stories never got a final chapter. It's a bit like when you start to write a story, but then you stop halfway. Your characters are just there, stuck in that moment, with no ending. Or think about losing a favorite toy from when you were younger. You remember it clearly, maybe the last place you saw it, but its story with you just stopped. It didn't go anywhere else after that. These silent images, then, are not just about what happened. More deeply, they are about what didn't happen, what was left unsaid. They invite us to pause, to consider the quiet weight of things left incomplete. They speak of journeys that fade into mystery. They remind us that even in deep silence, there can be a profound, lasting story, a track laid down long ago, leading to a place only memory can truly visit. A stranger at the window. Have you ever felt that shiver, that tiny prickle on your skin, even when you're perfectly safe inside? It's a feeling that comes from deep within us, an old memory of what it means to be truly vulnerable. And sometimes, it's a feeling a window can bring. A window is a strange thing, isn't it? It's a wall you can see through. It lets light in, lets you look out, but it's also meant to keep the outside, well, outside. But what if the outside looks back? What if, for just a moment, a shape appears, a flicker, a shadow that isn't quite right? That's the idea of a stranger at the window. It plays on one of our oldest fears, the unknown, right on the edge of our safe space. Think about how ancient people built homes with thick walls and no windows at all, only a door. They needed to feel completely protected from everything out there. We still have that instinct. We feel safe inside our houses, our rooms. It's our own little world. So, when something appears at that thin glass barrier, it makes us question that safety. It's like when you glance into a dark window at night, and for a split second, you think you see someone looking back, but it's just your own reflection staring out of the glass. The mind plays tricks. But sometimes, what if it's not a trick? Sometimes, the scariest things are the ones we can't quite make out. The things that are almost there, almost seen. It's about the feeling of being watched, of knowing there's a world beyond your walls, full of people and moments you'll never know. And sometimes, one of them might just pause and look back at your quiet light. The room of lost things. Have you ever walked into a place, maybe an old house or an empty classroom, and felt a strange echo, like the air itself holds on to leftover whispers of what happened there? You know, the feeling that people, their laughter, or fears, left a quiet mark. This is kind of what we mean by the room of lost things. It's not a real room, not one you can walk into. Instead, it's a way to think about certain unsettling photos. These photos aren't just pictures of moments. They're like tiny windows into places that seem to hold the feelings of what happened. It's not magic, and it's not supernatural, but our minds connect to history, especially when it's captured so directly. People for a long time have believed that places hold memories, that the ground beneath our feet remembers stories. Think about visiting an ancient castle. You might feel the weight of centuries, even though it's just stone. Here's the thing, a powerful photo can do the same. Imagine finding an old faded photograph of a child's forgotten toy, left behind in a dusty attic. The toy isn't there in front of you, but the photo makes you feel its forgotten presence, its quiet sadness. You sense the loneliness of the attic, the passage of time, the child who once played there. It's almost as if the photograph itself became a little room, holding those lost feelings. So, when we look at truly creepy photos, sometimes the unsettling part isn't just what we see. It's the deep, quiet feeling that the scene itself holds. Something heavy, it's like the moment captured left an invisible stain, a permanent echo. These pictures become rooms of lost things, making us pause and sense the leftover emotion, the quiet ripple from a disturbing past. It helps us remember that even from far away, the past can still reach out and touch us with a soft, unforgettable whisper. The bell that never rings. Have you ever noticed how sometimes the quietest things can be the loudest? How a missing sound can echo more than any noise? When we look at old, creepy photos, sometimes it's not what's in the picture that chills us. It's what's not there. The bell that never rings. This idea, the bell that never rings, is about things that should happen. Signals that should be sent, but they just aren't. It's about an expected sound that never comes. Think of a warning bell, meant to signal danger or change, but it stays silent. Or a final bell, meant to bring an end, but it never rings. In history, there are moments like this, events, where silence speaks louder than words. A time when a town became quiet too quickly, or a ship vanished without a trace. No distress signal, no last call. The quiet itself becomes the story, a chilling sign of what's missing. It's a space where we fill in the blanks with our fears, where our minds try to make sense of an emptiness. Imagine you're walking home alone at night. You hear a distant siren, then suddenly, it just stops. No fading away, no reaching its destination, just ... silence. That sudden quiet can be more unsettling than the siren itself, right? Your brain instantly starts asking, what happened? Or think of a text message you're waiting for, a reply that never comes. That empty space on your screen, that quiet, can feel heavy, leaving you wondering. That's a bell that never rings in your everyday life. Sometimes the most disturbing truths are found not in loud declarations, but in the soft, persistent quiet of what never was, or what never finished. It's a whisper of something left undone, a forgotten signal, reminding us that some stories don't have a clear ending. They just ... resonate in the silence. A party of one. Have you ever been in a room full of people, maybe even your closest friends, and still felt entirely alone? It's a strange feeling, isn't it? Not physically alone, but alone inside your own head. Like no one else could truly know what you're thinking or feeling. Not exactly. Here's the thing. That deep, quiet aloneness is a part of being human. Every single person on earth lives inside their own private world of thoughts and feelings. Imagine your mind like a room, with windows looking out at the world, but only you hold the key to the door. We can share stories, feelings, and ideas, but the way they land, the way they settle in your unique room, that's yours alone. Think about it, like your fingerprint. Everyone has one, but no two are exactly alike, ever. Your inner world is a lot like that. It's shaped by every single moment you've ever lived, every laugh, every tear, every quiet thought you've had in the middle of the night. No one else has walked your exact path, or seen the world through your exact eyes. For centuries, thinkers have wondered about this. They've recognized that no matter how connected we feel to others, there's always a part of us that walks alone. It's not necessarily a sad truth, but a simple one. It means your experience of life is utterly, beautifully unique. So, when you feel that quiet aloneness, whether in a crowd or by yourself, remember, it's not a flaw. It's part of what makes you, you. It's where your deepest thoughts live, where your truest self resides. It's your own private party, and you are the most important guest. And that, in itself, is a kind of gentle strength. The unseen hand. Have you ever felt a shiver, a strange pull that you couldn't quite explain? Like something was at work, just beyond your sight, guiding a feeling or an event. This is what some call the unseen hand. It's not a ghost or a spirit, but more like a quiet, hidden force that shapes things around us without us always noticing. Think of it this way. For centuries, people have wondered about why certain things happen. Is it luck? Is it fate? Or is it something else? A deep pattern woven into life itself. Philosophers and thinkers have often talked about these hidden currents. They believed there are subtle forces, like a gentle push or pull, that guide human actions, even our thoughts, often without our conscious minds realizing it. It's like when you're walking through a crowd, and suddenly, everyone shifts to one side. No one planned it, but an unspoken agreement, an unseen hand, moved them together. Here's an example. Imagine you're listening to a sad song. You might not actively think, "This music is making me feel emotional," but the notes and rhythms slowly, subtly, stir something inside you. That's the unseen hand of music at work. It gently steers your mood. Or think about a rumor that spreads quickly through a school. No single person forced it, but a shared curiosity, a collective urge, pushed it along, changing perceptions without anyone giving a direct order. And so, as we look at these eerie photos, we might feel things, reactions bubbling up from deep inside us. Maybe it's not just the picture itself, but the echo of all the fears and wonders humanity has ever felt, subtly guiding our feelings. This unseen hand reminds us that many things shape our world and our own inner lives in ways we are still learning to understand. It's a quiet wonder, always present, always weaving its way through the fabric of our existence. Beneath the floorboards, what truly lies hidden, out of sight, yet close enough to feel its weight? We often think of beneath the floorboards as a dusty, forgotten space for old toys or lost coins, but the idea is bigger. It's about what we bury in our minds, history, quiet corners of our past. It's about things kept from view. Throughout time, people have hidden things, maybe a treasured letter, a forbidden book, or painful memories. Not always meanness, sometimes for protection, to keep something safe, other times from fear, to hide what felt wrong. Think about old houses and their layers. Each holds a story, some visible, some needing to be dug for. Hidden things often carry deep energy, a silent hum of what was. They represent unspoken truths, moments frozen in time. It's kind of like keeping feelings inside. Maybe you're upset, but you don't talk about it. It's still there, right? Even if no one else sees it, it's under the surface, shaping how you feel. Or think about an old scientific idea. Someone might have figured out something amazing, but it was too early to understand, so it got put away. It was only found later when the world was ready. The truth was always there, waiting beneath the floorboards of time. So, when we look at photos that disturb us, the real chill often comes from what's not in the picture. It's about what's implied, or what happened right before or after the camera clicked. It's the story buried deep, the quiet weight of untold moments. It reminds us every visible thing has an invisible history, and sometimes the most profound lessons come from these quiet, hidden places. They urge us to look closer, to feel deeper, and to understand some truths are not loud. Instead, they echo softly from beneath the floorboards of our understanding, inviting us to listen to the whispers of the unseen. The collector's prize. Have you ever wondered why we hold on to certain things? Not just happy memories, but maybe an old photo that feels a little strange, or a faded letter with a sad story. It's curious, this human need to collect. Sometimes, the most valuable prize isn't shiny or pretty at all. It might be something that captures a moment, a truth, even if unsettling. That's what the collector's prize means for these photos. We aren't talking about money, we're talking about an image someone kept, perhaps for reasons we can only guess. It's a frozen piece of time, a whisper from the past. Humans have always gathered things, ancient tools, rare books, simple keepsakes. But what happens when the thing collected is an image carrying dread, a chilling secret? Here's the thing, these photos become a different kind of prize. They are a record, a piece of history hard to look at, but important not to forget. Think about a dusty old photograph found in a forgotten box. It might show a strange place, or people with unsettling expressions. That photo isn't just paper. It holds an echo, a memory of a time, a feeling. It's like how a scientist might study a very ancient, simple rock. It doesn't look like much, but its layers hold clues to Earth's deep past. Or, imagine finding an old diary. It might talk about someone's difficult days. Those words, though maybe sad, are a prize because they tell a real story, helping you understand a life. So, when we look at eerie photos, they are like those rocks or diaries. They are prizes not because they are pleasant, but because they carry the weight of real human experience. They are moments etched into the world, inviting us to pause, to feel, and to wonder about history's hidden corners and the human heart. They remind us that even in shadows, there's something to learn, something to remember. A face in the crowd. Have you ever zoomed in on an old photograph, maybe one filled with a big crowd, and found your eyes drawn to just one single face in the background? A quiet blur, a distant stare, a person simply passing by. What do you truly see there? And what echoes do you feel from that unseen life? Here's the thing. Sometimes, the most haunting details in a picture aren't the main subject, the one clearly in focus. Instead, they are those forgotten faces, the ones on the edges, silent witnesses to moments that might have been incredibly sad, or even deeply terrifying. Every person, no matter how tiny or blurred they appear, carries a whole universe of thoughts, feelings, and experiences. Each one is a story waiting to be imagined. For a long time, especially in older eras, people often thought of big groups as just the crowd, a single mass. They didn't always focus on the unique lives tucked within. But what if one of those overlooked faces saw something truly awful unfolding? Or what if that person themselves was somehow tied to a dark secret? It reminds us that history isn't just about famous figures. It's also built from countless individual experiences, many of them hidden or forgotten by time. Think about walking through a busy train station during rush hour, or a bustling school hallway between classes. You see hundreds of people, all moving, all caught up in their own lives. You might only notice a few, but every single person there has dreams, worries, and memories. They each have their own story playing out, and that's why it matters when we look at an unsettling old photograph. The person standing quietly in the corner, almost out of sight, might hold a crucial piece of a disturbing truth, a deep echo of what truly happened. So, when you next spot a face lost in a crowd, take a moment. That quiet presence might have seen things we can only imagine, or felt things that haunt the very air around the image. That blurred expression might hold a silent scream, a secret knowledge, or the echo of a forgotten life. It teaches us to look closer, to remember that every face, every shadow, holds a unique and powerful story waiting to be acknowledged, often a profound human one. The locked room's tale: what happens when a door clicks shut and stays that way for a very long time. Have you ever walked past an old, quiet house with some windows boarded up and wondered about the rooms inside? The idea of the locked room isn't always about a real key and a padlock. It's a feeling, a deep sense that a place holds secrets, that something important, maybe unsettling, happened there, and its story is now trapped, frozen in time. Imagine a moment, a whole day, even, a life unfolding within four walls. Then, silence. The air grows still, the dust settles, and the light changes, but the echoes of what was remain. It's as if the very bricks and wood remember, holding on to the whispers and shadows of long past events. History isn't just about big battles or famous people. It's also found in these forgotten spaces, in the quiet weight of things left behind, like an old diary found in an attic, its pages worn and faded, hinting at tales we can only guess at. The locked room invites our minds to wonder. Philosophers might say, our human nature pulls us toward mystery. We want to know. When we see an empty stage or a closed curtain, our imaginations naturally begin to work, trying to picture what was, or what could be. Think about walking into an old, empty classroom during summer break. You see the worn desks, the marks on the blackboard, and you can almost feel the presence of all the students who learned there, all the laughter and quiet moments. You know stories unfolded there, even if you'll never hear them. That's the gentle power and quiet unease of the locked room. It isn't always about something truly scary. Instead, it's about the lingering presence of what's unknown, the quiet hum of a past moment that whispers just out of our reach. It reminds us that some stories are never fully told, some secrets never fully revealed, but even in their silence, they leave a mark, a feeling that stays with us, making us quietly reflect on the many unseen layers of the world. A journey into the woods. What is it about certain images, or even just ideas, that makes a shiver run down your arm? It's not always about a sudden scare. Sometimes, it's a quiet, unsettling feeling, a whisper of something strange or out of place. This feeling isn't exactly fear. It's more like a deep curiosity mixed with a hint of unease. It's what we call creepy. Here's the thing. Our brains are designed to notice anything that doesn't quite fit, anything that hints at a hidden story. For thousands of years, humans have lived with the unknown. Imagine early people sitting around a fire, the darkness pressing in from all sides. Every rustle in the leaves, every strange shadow, became a possible threat. Their minds, just like ours, worked overtime to figure out what was out there. This ancient instinct still lives inside us. We tell stories about ghosts and monsters, not just to scare ourselves, but to explore the edges of what we understand. It's a way for us to process the mysterious parts of life that don't have easy answers. Think about walking through your own neighborhood at twilight. It's a place you know well. But as the light fades, a familiar tree might look like a hunched figure, or a distant sound might seem closer, stranger. Your mind starts filling in the blanks, creating possibilities. This isn't because something is actually there to harm you. It's your brain doing its job, trying to make sense of incomplete information, pulling from all those ancient instincts. It's like when a scientist looks at tiny particles and tries to imagine the bigger picture. Our minds do the same with shadows and whispers. So, when we look at photos that feel creepy, we're really just tapping into this very human way of seeing the world. We're not always looking for something scary. We're often looking for something that makes us wonder, that challenges what we thought we knew. It reminds us that there's always more beneath the surface, more to explore, not just in the world around us, but deep within our own imaginations. This feeling can be a doorway, inviting us to reflect on the stories we tell ourselves, and the quiet power of what remains unseen. The Dollhouse Story. Have you ever looked at a tiny dollhouse? Maybe one sitting dusty on a shelf, its miniature rooms waiting. It's like holding a whole world in your hands, isn't it? A perfect, shrunken version of life, frozen in time. But sometimes, these small, quiet spaces can feel a little strange. Why is that? For a long time, people have loved making tiny copies of big things. Think about old models of grand buildings, or even toy towns set up for display. We build small things to understand big ones, to get a sense of control over something vast. A dollhouse is like that. It lets you create a story, move characters around, and decide what happens in its tiny rooms. It's all about imagination and play. It's a bit like setting up your action figures for a big adventure, or carefully arranging items in a virtual world you've built in a game. You're the one in charge. You're the quiet giant, looking into a world that feels both real and completely made up. And that feeling of being a silent watcher, powerful yet separated, is part of why dollhouses can feel so interesting, and sometimes a little unsettling. And here's the thing about those small, perfect worlds. Sometimes they feel a little too quiet, like a breath held for a very long time. When we see a dollhouse, especially an old one, it's like looking at a dream someone once had, now left behind. It makes us wonder about the lives that were imagined inside those tiny walls, and what stories might still linger, unseen. They remind us that even the most innocent places can hold echoes of something strange, something forgotten. It's a quiet thought, isn't it? That even the smallest things can hold a deep, maybe a little bit creepy, secret within their tiny walls. The child's new friend. Have you ever thought about the kinds of friends only a child can truly see? Not just imaginary friends, the kind you make up in your head, but something that feels more real to them, a presence that only they acknowledge. For kids, the line between what's real and what isn't can sometimes feel wonderfully, strangely blurry. And sometimes, what they see, or who they talk to, might feel incredibly real to them, even if no one else can see a thing. Long ago, in many different cultures, people had a special way of looking at children. They often believed that young minds were closer to a different kind of world. Maybe it was a world of spirits, or unseen helpers, or even just a deeper connection to nature that adults had lost. So, if a child was talking to an empty corner, or giggling at something no one else could see, it wasn't always seen as strange. Sometimes, it was seen as special, maybe even a little bit sacred. It was like their innocence opened a door that stayed closed for grown-ups. Think about how a very young child might have a favorite blanket or a worn-out doll. For them, that object isn't just fabric or plastic. It has feelings. It's a real companion they whisper secrets to. You might give it a voice in your head when you play, but imagine if that voice felt like it came from outside you. Or picture how the shadows in your room at night can look like anything: a dancing monster, a quiet stranger. To an adult, it's just a trick of light. To a child, it might become a new friend, or something else entirely. This idea of a child's new friend makes us wonder about so much. What if their world truly is bigger than ours? What if their innocence lets them perceive things that our grown-up eyes have learned to ignore, or even completely forgotten how to see? It's a quiet mystery. It makes you think about how something meant to be innocent, like a child's bond, can hold a whisper of something truly unsettling, reminding us that reality isn't always the same for everyone, especially for the very young. A shadow's embrace. Have you ever noticed how a shadow can change everything? It's not just a simple dark shape. Sometimes, a shadow seems to hold secrets, hinting at what's hidden. In life, we often look at what's bright and clear, but often, the most interesting, even unsettling, parts of a story are found in the shadows. They aren't just where light isn't. They can feel like a quiet presence, a whisper from something just out of sight. Think about old photos. A picture might look normal at first, but then, your eye catches something in the background. Maybe it's a corner where light doesn't reach, or a figure half hidden, or just a deep darkness that feels heavy. For a long time, people have felt drawn to the unknown. Even ancient thinkers, like Plato, talked about a shadow world. He meant what we see might just be a faint copy of a deeper truth. What isn't obvious can often be more important, or even more real, than what's right in front of us. Here's an example. Imagine walking home as the sun sets. Trees cast long shadows across the path. A branch might look like a reaching hand. A pile of leaves might seem like a hunched shape. Your mind plays tricks, filling in what's missing, making the unknown feel a bit spooky. Our brains try to make sense of things, even with not enough information. When we see a shadow, our imagination takes over. It fills that empty space with possibilities, both good and scary. So, when we look at photos with these shadows, whether dark spaces or just hints of something unexplained, we're asked to pause. We're invited to think about what's not shown, what's hinted at, and what mysteries might be just beyond what we understand. It's a quiet reminder that sometimes, the deepest feelings and truths are found not in bright light, but in the soft, uncertain embrace of the unknown. The abandoned playground. Have you ever walked past a playground where no one plays anymore? Where the swings hang still, tangled with weeds, and the slide looks like a forgotten promise? It's a strange feeling, isn't it? These places were built for joy, for shouts and laughter, for the rush of tiny feet. But when they are left behind, they become quiet, almost sacred, holding echoes of the past. Here's the thing about abandoned places. They show us how time moves, even when we don't notice it. Imagine a busy street that, over many years, slowly, becomes quiet as people move away. The buildings stay, but their purpose changes. A playground is like that. It stands as a memory of vibrant energy that has simply moved on, leaving its structures behind. It reminds us that nothing stays the same forever. Even something as full of life as a playground can eventually become a monument to what once was. It's a bit like that favorite toy you had when you were really young. You loved it, played with it every day, but then you grew older. The toy didn't change, but your interest did. It ended up in a box, maybe, or on a high shelf, still holding all those memories for you, but no longer actively part of your daily world. It's not sad, exactly. It's just the natural way things shift and evolve. So, when we see an abandoned playground, it's not just an old, broken place. It quietly asks us to think about change and what we cherish. It reminds us that moments of happiness, like the ones that once filled those swings and slides, are precious. And it gently whispers for us to appreciate the present, to find the beauty in the quiet passage of time, and to know that even silence can hold a deep kind of meaning. The empty swing. Have you ever walked past a quiet playground and seen an empty swing swaying just a little? Maybe a soft breeze pushed it, or maybe it was a memory of someone who was there moments before. An empty swing can feel deep, almost haunting. It makes you wonder about the person who was just sitting there, laughing, flying high. Where did they go? It's not really scary, not in a jump scare way. It's more of a quiet feeling, like a story hangs in the air. For a long time, people have felt this way about places where someone used to be. Think about old houses left empty, toys still in a corner, or a quiet classroom, desks lined up, waiting. It's like the air remembers the energy, voices, and life that was once there. It shows us that even when something is gone, its mark can linger. And that's how it works with these photos, especially one showing an empty swing. It's not just a picture of nothing. It's a picture of absence, of what isn't there anymore. It makes your mind try to fill the blank, to imagine the child who once used it. It's like listening to a song where a note isn't played, but you can still hear it in your head. Your brain fills in that missing part. That empty swing holds all the stories, laughter, and memories of the one who used it. holding the echo of their presence. So when you see an empty swing, it's not just an object, it's a quiet whisper of life. It's a reminder that everything is always moving and changing, but traces of joy and play often remain. It teaches us to notice those lingering feelings. It makes you think about how we leave little pieces of ourselves behind, even in the simplest places. A voice from the static. Have you ever listened to the quiet, really listened, and thought you heard something just at the edge of hearing? Like a whisper that wasn't quite there, or a faint tune carried on the wind. This is kind of like the idea behind a voice from the static. Think about an old radio, maybe late at night, turning the dial between stations. There's that hissing, crackling sound, that static. It's just random noise, a messy jumble of electrical signals. But what if, in that jumble, someone claims to hear words, real voices, speaking clearly, even though no one is physically there? This idea is often called electronic voice phenomena, or EVP. It's not about magic, but about the very human desire to find meaning where there seems to be none. For a long time, people have wondered about what lies beyond what we can see or touch. They've searched for answers in dreams, in nature, and later, in technology. When radios and recorders became common, some folks started to experiment, hoping these new tools could pick up signals from places we couldn't normally reach. Here's how it works for some. They'll record silence, or what sounds like silence, then play it back and listen very closely. Sometimes, when you really focus on a random pattern, your brain tries to make sense of it. It's like when you stare at clouds and start seeing shapes, a dragon, a dog, a face. Your brain is trying to find something familiar in something random. Or think about when you're very tired, and everyday sounds of your house can start to sound like distant talking. Our minds are always trying to connect the dots, to turn chaos into order. So, when we hear a voice from the static, is it a true message from an unknown place? Or is it our own minds, reaching out, trying to make sense of the vast, quiet unknown? Maybe it's a little bit of both. It makes us wonder about the edges of perception, about what might exist just beyond our understanding, and it reminds us of how much we long to connect, even with the unseen. The doorway to nowhere. Have you ever looked at a picture and felt a strange tug, like something was missing or hidden just beyond what you could see? Sometimes, a photograph doesn't show a clear path or a finished story. Instead, it captures what we call the doorway to nowhere. This isn't always a physical door. It's more like a feeling, a deep sense of a space that should lead somewhere but doesn't. It's an image that hints at a passage, a forgotten room, or a journey that simply ends in emptiness. Think of an old, broken staircase climbing into a ceiling that isn't there, or a window staring out onto a solid brick wall. It makes you wonder what was supposed to be there and why it isn't. For a long time, humans have been fascinated by gaps, by the unknown. In old stories, people would talk about secret entrances to other worlds or lost paths that simply vanished. This is part of us wanting to understand everything, to fill in every blank. So, when a photo shows us a doorway to nowhere, it challenges that deep need. It forces us to sit with uncertainty. Here's an example. Imagine you're drawing a map of your neighborhood, and you sketch a path that just stops abruptly in the middle of a field, not leading to any house or street. That's the feeling. It's not spooky in a jump scare way, but unsettling because it defies logic. It's like a question mark frozen in time, and that's why these images stick with us. They whisper about what isn't, about the void. They can feel a bit sad or lonely, a quiet reminder that not every door leads to a new beginning. Some simply lead us to pause, to breathe, and to think about the quiet mysteries that exist, even in a single frame. The house that waits. Have you ever walked past an old, quiet house and felt like it was watching you, like it was holding its breath? It's a strange feeling, isn't it? As if the building itself has a memory, a story it's keeping just for itself. These aren't just buildings made of wood and brick. They are like giant, silent witnesses to countless moments. Think about all the people who once lived within those walls. They laughed there, they cried there, they celebrated birthdays and shared quiet meals. They argued, they dreamed, they simply were. All that human energy, all those feelings, they don't just vanish into thin air. It's almost as if the walls themselves listen, absorb, and then remember. This is why ancient ruins, or abandoned homes, can feel so powerful, sometimes even a little eerie. It's not necessarily about ghosts, but about the profound echo of lives once lived. It's a bit like when you visit a beloved grandparent's house after they've moved away. The furniture is gone, the rooms are empty, and the air is still. But as you walk through those silent spaces, can't you almost hear their voice? Can't you picture them in their favorite chair, or imagine the smell of their cooking? It's not literally them there, but your mind, combined with the lingering feeling of the place, makes it feel like they are. The house itself seems to hold on to their presence, their story. It's waiting, but not for something new. It's waiting with the past. So, when we see photos of houses that wait, perhaps they are simply honoring the memories woven into their very structure. They stand there, silent and still, showing us that even emptiness can be rich with history. The quiet of these places isn't truly empty. It's brimming with whispers of lives that shaped them, reminding us that every space has a story, even if we can't fully hear it. A figure in the fog. Have you ever looked into a thick fog, or stared at shadows in a dim room, and thought you saw something move? Maybe a shape, a hint of a person, just on the edge of what you could actually see. It's a strange feeling, isn't it? Our minds are always trying to make sense of the world around us. They want to find patterns, even when there aren't any clear ones to be found. Here's the thing, when we face something unclear, like a blurry photograph or a misty scene, our brains work overtime. They try to fill in the missing pieces. This is a natural part of how we understand things. Long ago, before science explained so much, people might have seen a vague shape in the mist and imagined a ghost or a spirit. They didn't have cameras to prove what was there or not there. So, their minds created a story, a meaning, for the unknown. Think about it this way. Have you ever looked at clouds floating by and suddenly seen a dog, or a dragon, or even a face? The cloud is just vapor, right? But your brain takes those random shapes and fits them into something familiar. That's a bit like what happens when we see a figure in the fog in an old photo. Our brains, seeking meaning, might connect faint outlines or shadows into something human, something unsettling. These images, these figures in the fog, remind us how powerful our minds are. They show us how easily we can create stories from just a hint of information. It's not always about something actually being there. Sometimes, the creepiness comes from our own minds, from the way we try to make sense of the blurry, the hidden, the almost seen, and that's why it matters. It teaches us about perception, about how we interpret the world, and how often what we truly see is shaped by our own thoughts and fears. The Last Supper picture. Have you ever looked at a picture so famous, you feel like you know it, even if you've never really looked at it? We see images everywhere, on screens, in books, and sometimes they just blend into the background. But what if one of the most familiar images in the world holds a quiet, almost unsettling feeling that we often miss? Think about The Last Supper. You've likely seen it, painted by Leonardo da Vinci. It shows Jesus and his 12 disciples sitting around a long table. At first glance it looks like a simple meal. But here's the thing. This isn't just any dinner party. This is a moment charged with emotion. A final meal before a terrible event. Jesus has just told his friends that one of them will betray him. Imagine that feeling. Imagine sitting with your closest friends, and then someone drops a truth bomb. That changes everything. It's like when you're in a group, and someone says something that makes everyone freeze, looking at each other, wondering who it could be. You feel the sudden shift, the quiet tension, the disbelief. Da Vinci wasn't just painting faces. He was trying to paint that exact human reaction. Surprise, denial, confusion, even a flicker of guilt. Each person in the painting reacts differently. Their hands, their faces, their leaning bodies, showing their inner thoughts. Some look shocked, others are whispering, trying to understand. And then there's the figure of Judas, often painted with a darker look, clutching a bag of silver, a symbol of his plan. It's a moment of deep human drama, captured forever. This famous picture, so often seen as just a religious artwork, is also a profound study of human nature. It reminds us how quickly trust can be broken, how fragile relationships can be, and how one powerful truth can ripple through a group, leaving quiet echoes of betrayal and sorrow. It makes us think about those silent, unsettling moments when the world shifts, and nothing will quite be the same. The photographer's secret. Have you ever wondered what a photograph truly holds, beyond just the light and the dark? We see an image, and we think it's a window to a moment, a truth. But what if it's also a mirror, showing us something about the person holding the camera? This is the photographer's secret. Every picture carries a piece of them. Think about it. A photographer isn't just pointing and clicking. They choose what's in the frame, what's left out, the angle, the exact moment. It's like they're having a quiet conversation with the world, and the photo is their answer. For a long time, people thought cameras just captured perfect reality, the unquestionable truth. But we've learned truth has many faces, each seen through someone's eyes. Here's an example. Imagine two friends at the same school assembly. One friend loves the band, and their photos capture the lead singer's passion, the crowd's energy. Every picture feels alive. The other friend might be bored or lonely, and their pictures show empty seats or a tired teacher's face. Both are photos of the same assembly, but they tell different stories. Why? Because the camera records not just what's there, but what the person behind it sees and feels. So when we look at those creepy or unsettling photos, it's not just about the strange subject. It's also about the person who felt drawn to that strangeness, who framed it in a particular way. Their curiosity, their fear, maybe even a hidden understanding, somehow got woven into the very fabric of the image. And that's why, sometimes, a photograph can feel so powerful, so deeply unsettling. It's not just a snapshot, it's a whisper from another soul, frozen in time, inviting us to wonder not just what we see, but what was felt. It reminds us that every view is a blend of what is real and what is felt by the one doing the seeing. A town frozen in time. Have you ever stopped to think about time? Not just the clock ticking, but how it always moves us forward. But what if, for some places, time suddenly just paused? Imagine a town where everything is left exactly as it was. It's as if people vanished one ordinary morning. A silent play, frozen mid-scene. These aren't just old ruins. Here's the thing. These are places where a big, sudden event happened. Maybe a huge natural disaster, like a volcano erupting. It could bury a city in ash, holding it perfectly still for centuries. Or perhaps a sudden war or a terrible sickness made everyone leave quickly. They never came back. So, what you're left with is like a snapshot. But instead of a flat photo, it's a whole world, an entire community, perfectly preserved, holding the echoes of lives that once bustled there. Think about it like this. Have you ever been building something, like a Lego castle, and then something happens, and you have to stop? You leave your creation just as it is, mid-construction. Maybe for a day, maybe for longer. When you come back, it's still there, exactly as you left it. Well, these towns are like that, but on a much bigger, more heartbreaking scale. They're like whispers from the past, reminding us that life can shift in an instant. It makes you think, doesn't it, about how fragile life can be, and how quickly things can change. But it also shows us how strong stories are. Even though the people are gone, their hopes and daily moments are still present. You can find them in the quiet streets, the abandoned homes, the toys left on the floor. These places teach us that even when time tries to erase things, some memories, some truths, can remain. They wait quietly for us to find them. They are a gentle reminder of the past, holding their breath through the ages. The unfinished letter. Have you ever found something left behind? Maybe a half-eaten snack, or a book with a bookmark stuck halfway through a chapter. It makes you wonder, right, what happened? Where did the person go? What was next? Here's the thing about unfinished letters. They are like those half-read books, but much deeper. They're words that stopped flowing, thoughts paused mid-sentence, feelings never fully shared. Imagine someone writing a letter, pouring their heart out, and then suddenly, they just stop. The paper ends, the ink dries, and the message hangs, incomplete. For centuries, people wrote letters to share lives, hopes, and fears. A letter was a true connection across distances, a piece of someone's soul. So, an unfinished letter isn't just missing words. It's a conversation broken off, a story without an ending. It leaves a silent question. What was left unsaid? Think about texting a friend, sharing something important, and then your phone battery dies in the middle. You feel that sudden halt, the message gone. That small frustration, wanting to finish, gives you a glimpse into an unfinished letter. For a letter found from long ago, by someone no longer with us, that missing ending isn't just frustrating, it can be heartbreaking. These fragments whisper about lives interrupted. They remind us not every story gets its last chapter. Not every goodbye is spoken. Sometimes, the quiet of what isn't there, the words that never made it onto the page, can speak louder than anything written. It leaves us with wonder and a quiet sadness for thoughts that remain forever unshared. The masked figure. Have you ever wondered why a simple mask can feel so unsettling? Sometimes, the creepiest photos show someone wearing a mask, and that's because masks hide faces. They take away what we usually use to understand someone. Their expressions, their eyes. So, we're left guessing. Think about it. For thousands of years, people have used masks. In ancient tribes, masks helped people feel closer to spirits or gods. In old plays, actors wore masks to show if they were happy or sad, or to play different people. So, a mask could hide a person, but also reveal a role they were playing. It's like they were stepping into another skin, another way of being. Here's the thing: when someone puts on a mask, they change. It's not just their appearance. Sometimes, the mask can make them feel braver, or scarier, or even totally different. It's a bit like picking an avatar in a video game. You might make choices in the game you wouldn't in real life. That avatar, in a way, is your mask. It lets you try on a different personality without anyone knowing it's truly you. So, when we see a masked figure in a photo, it taps into something deep inside us. We wonder, who is behind it? What are they thinking? What are they hiding? It makes us question how much of ourselves we show to the world, and how much we keep hidden. A mask, then, isn't just a piece of cloth or plastic. It's a mystery, and it makes us think about identity itself. What makes us us, when parts of ourselves are hidden? A room left untouched. Have you ever walked into an old house? Maybe one that's been empty for a long time. Sometimes, you find a room where everything is just as it was left. A calendar on the wall from years ago. A cup on a bedside table. Clothes, still folded in a drawer. It's like time itself froze in that one spot. This isn't just an empty room. It's a silent moment. A place where life just stopped. We sometimes find these places after someone suddenly passes away, or moves on, or disappears without a trace. The people left behind can't bring themselves to change anything. It becomes a way to hold on to a memory, a physical echo of someone who was there. It's a very human thing to do, to try and keep things the way they were, hoping to preserve a feeling or a presence. It's like when you keep a special drawing you made as a kid, or a ticket stub from an amazing concert. You don't just throw it away because it holds more than just paper. It holds a moment. Think about your own bedroom if you were to go away for a long trip. When you come back, it's mostly the same, but the quiet stillness of it might feel different. Now imagine that feeling, but stretched over years, even decades. Every object in an untouched room, from a dusty book to a half-finished craft project, tells a quiet story about the person who was once there. It's like a whisper from the past, reminding us that even when people are gone, the spaces they lived in can still hold a piece of their presence. These rooms teach us how deeply we are connected to the places we call home, and how even silence can speak volumes about what once was. The eyes in the dark. Have you ever been in a truly dark place? So dark you can't see your own hand. And then, your mind starts to play tricks. Do you ever feel a quiet shift, as if something is watching back from the blackness? The idea of eyes in the dark isn't always about literal eyes. It's about that deep, old feeling we get when the unknown stares back. It's about parts of the world that stay hidden, even when we sense them. For thousands of years, humans have felt this. Imagine our ancestors, huddled by a fire, the vast night stretching out. Every rustle, every faint glimmer, could have been the eyes of a hungry animal. Or to them, maybe the gaze of an unseen spirit, a watchful god, or something from another realm. It's a primal feeling, woven into us, the sense of being observed by what we cannot fully grasp. Think about being in your own room at night. After the light is off, the clothes piled on your chair can suddenly look like a strange creature, or shadows dancing on your wall seem to twist into faces. That's your brain trying to make sense of incomplete information. When there isn't enough light, our minds work overtime, trying to find patterns and shapes where there are none. Here's what I found. Our eyes, especially for details, don't work great in darkness. But the edges of our vision, our peripheral sight, is incredibly sensitive to movement and faint light. So, sometimes, that flicker you think you see, that sense of a presence, is just your amazing brain creating a story from a tiny, unclear signal. The eyes in the dark can be a mirror. They reflect our own fears, our own imagination. They remind us that the most unsettling things are often not what we can see, but what we cannot. It's a quiet whisper that tells us how powerful our minds truly are, filling emptiness with possibility, sometimes with wonder, and sometimes with a gentle shiver. It's a space where we learn about ourselves, in the soft, dark, quiet. The picture on the wall. Have you ever stopped in front of an old photograph, perhaps one of your grandparents, and felt more than just seeing their faces? It's almost like the picture itself holds a quiet hum of moments long past. Photos seem like just light on paper, a flat image, but a picture isn't just a window to the past. It's a kind of memory box. It locks away not only what was seen but what was felt in that exact instant. Think about it. For thousands of years, people tried to capture moments through paintings, drawings on cave walls, or sculptures. They thought these images held a spirit or story. Then, photography came along. Suddenly, we could freeze time with incredible detail. A person could be gone, but their smile, their look, remained fixed forever. This changed how we remember the past, how we mourned. Each photograph became a tiny piece of time, broken off and kept safe. Imagine seeing a picture of an old worn-out teddy bear on a dusty shelf. You don't just see the bear. You might think about the child who loved it, the games they played, maybe even the tears it wiped away. That simple image carries invisible stories. It speaks of laughter, comfort, and the quiet passing of years. It's like how a scientist finds a single fossil, just a rock, but it tells them about an entire, ancient creature, its life, its world, long before we existed. The picture isn't just what you see, it's everything that surrounds it in time, every feeling that brushed against it. So, when we look at a photograph, especially one that feels a little unsettling, we're not just seeing the image, we're feeling echoes of what happened, the whispers of the past, trapped within its frame. These pictures ask us to slow down, to listen not with our ears, but with our imaginations. They remind us that every moment, every face, holds layers of stories, waiting to be truly seen and felt. And sometimes, those silent frames hold stories that make us think deeply about life and time. A silent invitation. Have you ever held an old photograph, maybe one from long ago, and felt it calling to you? It's not just ink on paper, it's like a quiet whisper from another time. Each picture, even the stillest ones, hums with a silent story. It's an invitation, not spoken with words, but felt in the air around it. This gentle pull is what we mean by a silent invitation. Humans have always wanted to hold on to moments. Think about ancient cave paintings or grand portraits. We try to freeze time, to keep a piece of what was. Photographs are just our modern way. They grab a tiny slice of a second, but carry the weight of everything before and after that click. They hold not just faces, but feelings, hidden meanings, and sometimes even old fears. Consider a snapshot of your own grandparents when they were kids. You see their young faces, maybe a faded background, but you also feel a bit of their world. You start to wonder, what were they thinking that day? What adventures did they have? It's like their past reaches out, silently asking you to imagine their lives, to step into their shoes for a moment. Sometimes, though, this silent invitation leads us to unsettling places. The stories aren't always warm. Some photos hold echoes of sadness, confusion, or things that make us uncomfortable. They ask us to look closely at parts of history that feel strange, even disturbing. But here's what I found. Accepting that invitation, even to difficult stories, helps us understand more. It connects us to people who lived long ago, to our shared human experience. It helps us feel what it's like to be human in all its forms. So, when you see a photo that seems to stare back, remember, it's not just an image. It's a quiet chance to listen to a voice from the past, inviting you to truly see the ghost in the frame. Have you ever looked at an old photo, maybe one from long ago, and felt a strange feeling, like someone or something was still lingering there? It's more than just seeing an image. Sometimes, it feels like you're peeking into a moment that holds a quiet secret, a breath from the past. What is it about these still frames that can sometimes feel haunted? Here's the thing. When early cameras first came out, people believed photos could capture a piece of a person's soul. They thought a photograph wasn't just a picture, but a mirror holding a tiny bit of life. So, when someone passed away, their image could feel like they were still there, watching. It wasn't about actual ghosts. It was about the powerful idea that a moment, once captured, could somehow exist beyond time. This helped people cope with loss, to feel connected to those who are gone. Don't think about it like this. Have you ever been in your room at night, and your coat on the chair looks like a person standing there? For a moment, your brain fills in the gaps, creating something that isn't real, just from a shape and shadow. Our minds do that with photos too. We see a face, an expression, a setting, and our brains try to understand what happened before, or what happens next. We project our own feelings, our own memories, onto that flat paper. The ghost might just be the echo of human connection, or the quiet story we tell ourselves about a moment frozen in time, and that's why it matters. These feelings we get from old photos, that sense of a lingering presence, remind us that the past isn't truly gone. It lives on in memories, in stories, and yes, sometimes, in a single snapshot. The ghost we feel isn't spooky. It's the beautiful way our minds connect with history, with loss, and with the silent mystery of moments gone by. It's just us, remembering. The watcher from afar. Have you ever felt it? That strange prickle on your neck, like someone's watching you, even when you're totally alone. It's a feeling as old as time itself. For centuries, people have told stories about unseen eyes, hidden presences, or something just out of sight. This isn't always about a real person hiding. Sometimes, it's about how our minds work. Imagine walking home after dark. The streetlights make long shadows. The wind whispers through the trees. Every rustle, every creak, sounds louder, more important. Your brain, in its amazing way, is trying to keep you safe. It's always looking for signs of danger, even when there are none. Think about early humans. Living in the wild, every shadow could mean a predator. Every strange sound could mean trouble. So, their brains learned to be super alert, always watching for the watcher from afar. This old instinct is still with us. It's why we sometimes jump at our own reflection in a dark window, or see shapes in clothes piled on a chair. It's kind of like when you think you hear your name called in a crowded room, but no one really said it. Your brain picked up on a sound that almost matched and made you think it was real. Our minds are always trying to find meaning, to make a story from what's there, and what ISN single quotes to dot. So when that feeling of being watched washes over you, remember, it's often a whisper from your own ancient past. It's a story your brain tells itself to understand the unknown. It shows us that sometimes, the deepest fears aren't about what's actually there. They are about the powerful, mysterious ways our own minds see the world. It's a quiet reminder of the strange, quiet corners of our own thoughts. A world turned upside down. Have you ever looked at something completely familiar, something you thought you knew inside and out, and then suddenly seen it in a new, unsettling way? Maybe a shadow in your room that seemed like a monster, or a word you've heard 1,000 times that suddenly sounded strange. That feeling, that moment when your understanding shifts, is a little like a world turned upside down. It's about more than just a change. It's when the very ground beneath our feet, the ideas we've always trusted, suddenly feels like it's flipping over. Imagine what it was like for people long, long ago. For centuries, they believed the sun revolved around the earth, that our planet was the quiet, unmoving center of everything. The sky was a ceiling, the stars just tiny lights. But then, brave thinkers, like Copernicus, looked closer, studied the movements, and realized the truth. The earth actually spun around. The sun, that wasn't just a new fact. It was a total upside-down moment. Their universe, the one they had built in their minds, was suddenly rebuilt, and they were spinning through space. This kind of shift happens in smaller ways too, even in our daily lives. Think about how a puzzle works. You might stare at a pile of pieces, confused, seeing only random shapes, but then, one piece clicks into place, then another, and suddenly, the picture starts to form. The jumbled mess you saw before transforms into something clear. You can't unsee the emerging image. It's no longer just pieces. It's a whole new understanding. When we look at photos that disturb us, sometimes it's because they force us to see something we thought we knew in a way that truly rattles us. They take a familiar scene, a person, or a time, and flip it, showing us a hidden truth or a dark side we weren't ready for. These moments can feel unsettling, even a little scary, because they challenge our comfort. But here's the thing. Sometimes, it's only by letting our world get a little shaken up that we can truly see things as they are, beyond what we expect. It helps us understand deeper parts of the world, and even ourselves. The locket's secret. Have you ever thought about how a small object can hold a huge secret? Imagine holding a tiny metal heart, small enough for your palm. This isn't just jewelry, it's a locket, and sometimes, what's hidden inside tells a whole story, a quiet whisper from the past. What if that story is terribly sad? For hundreds of years, people wore lockets. Before phones, lockets carried someone loved close. It might hold a tiny photo, a curl of hair. They were small time capsules, holding memories and quiet sorrows. Here's the thing. Sometimes a locket's secret is heartbreaking. Think about an old photo found inside, maybe a child smiling softly. The locket might be found years later, tarnished. You look at that sweet face and wonder, who was this child? What happened to them? Its silent presence makes you feel the weight of time, and the sadness of a life ended too soon. It's a bit like finding an old, crumpled drawing you made in kindergarten. To someone else, it's just lines. But to you, it brings back the smell of crayons, the sunny afternoon you drew it. That drawing holds a secret memory, a feeling only you truly know. The locket is like that, but its memory often holds a bigger, tragic history. So, when we see such an old locket, it's more than just a picture. It's a gentle reminder. Every object, no matter how small, can hold human experience. It holds echoes of love and loss, of lives lived long ago. It makes us think about memory's power, even when hidden in a locket. The path through the haze of you ever looked at an old photo, one that's blurry or faded, and felt like there was more to it than you could see. Like a whisper you almost caught, but not quite. That feeling, that's what we call the haze. It's not just the dust of time or a bad camera. Sometimes, the haze is the missing story, the unseen events, the forgotten feelings sitting just beyond our reach. Here's the thing, a picture can look creepy on its own, right? But often, the true chill comes when we start to walk the path through that haze. We search for what happened before, what came after, who these people really were. Think about it. Since humans first drew on cave walls, we've tried to make sense of the world, especially the mysterious parts. Our brains are built to connect the dots, and when those blanks are big, our imagination often fills them with shadows. So, here's what happened. Imagine you're watching a scary movie, but the sound cuts out. Your mind starts guessing what horrors are off-screen. The quiet can be scarier than any scream. That's a bit like these photos. The images themselves can unsettle you. But once you add the backstory, the facts, the reasons, the human pain, the picture changes. It becomes more than just creepy. It becomes a window into something deeper, maybe sadder, maybe more thought-provoking. Walking this path through the haze can be unsettling because the truth isn't always pretty. But knowing, truly knowing, helps us understand. It moves us past a simple fear to a quiet, often profound, sense of reflection. It shows us the deep layers of human experience, even the parts we wish weren't there, and that's why it matters. A chill in the air. Have you ever felt a sudden, strange chill? Not from cold air, but from something deeper. It's that feeling you get when a story, or even a picture, holds more than it seems to. It's like a quiet whisper from a past you never knew, yet it touches you all the same. Here's the thing about some photos. They aren't just ink on paper or pixels on a screen. They can be silent echoes, holding the weight of moments that once were, brushing against your spirit long after they happened. For a very long time, humans have told stories about shadows and the unseen. Our ancestors gathered around fires, feeling a prickle of wonder or fear as they shared tales of the past, of things that felt just a bit off. Before cameras, these feelings came from spoken words, from shared fears in the dark. But then, cameras came along. They gave us a way to freeze time, to capture those quick, fleeting seconds. And sometimes, these photos somehow capture that very same ancient, unspoken feeling, a true ghost of a moment. If you will think about walking into an old, empty house, one that's been quiet for a long time. Nothing is moving, but the air feels different, doesn't it? You might not see anyone, but you sense the lives that were lived there. The laughter, the sadness, the everyday sounds that have faded away. It's not really scary, but it gives you a peculiar feeling, a kind of quiet knowing that something unseen lingers, that subtle shift in the atmosphere, that distinct feeling in your gut. That's the chill we're talking about. These images, these windows to other times, don't just show us what happened. They make us feel something deep inside ourselves. They remind us that history is truly alive, not just a list of facts and dates in a book. It is a tapestry woven with real human experiences, with emotions that can still reach us across the years, and understanding that chill, that quiet connection to the past, is a powerful thing. It teaches us about the many layers of life and the lasting impact of moments long gone. The forgotten memorial. Have you ever walked past an old building or a faded plaque on a wall and wondered what story it held? What happens when a place meant to help us remember something important simply fades from our minds? This is the quiet mystery of the forgotten memorial. It's not about a person being forgotten, but about a memory itself getting lost. A memorial is like a pause button on time. People build them because something happened that they never want to forget. Maybe it was a moment of great courage, or a time of deep sadness. They wanted to mark that spot, to set a stone there, so that every person who passed by would remember the lesson, the joy, or the pain. But here's the thing. Time keeps moving. Generations change. The people who built the memorial pass on, and sometimes the very reason it was put there starts to blur. Think about an old, dusty trophy case in your school hallway. It's filled with awards from years ago, for teams and students nobody at school today remembers. The names are there, etched in metal, but the stories behind those wins, the sweat, the cheers, the feeling of victory, those have mostly drifted away. The trophy is still there, a physical reminder, but its emotional power, its connection to a living memory, has faded. This fading can feel a little sad, can't it? It reminds us that even the strongest feelings, the most important moments, can soften with the years. A forgotten memorial isn't just a forgotten object. It's a whisper from the past, reminding us that remembering takes effort. It takes curious hearts willing to look closer, to ask questions, and to feel the echoes of stories that still wait to be heard. And that's why it matters. Sometimes, the creepiest things aren't just what we see, but what we've stopped seeing or stopped caring to remember. The broken toy. Have you ever held a favorite toy, maybe a teddy bear or an action figure, and noticed it wasn't perfect anymore? Perhaps an eye was missing, or an arm was loose. So here's the thing, it still felt special, right? A broken toy isn't just a thing that's damaged. It carries a whisper of time, a quiet story of what once was. Imagine a simple wooden doll from long ago, maybe from a grandparent's childhood. If you saw it now, it might be faded, scratched, its paint chipped away. But these marks aren't just damage, they are like tiny lines in a book, each one telling of a child's hands, of laughter, of quiet playtime. This isn't a sad story. It's about how even objects show their past, how they hold memories. Ancient thinkers often talked about how everything in the world changes, how nothing stays exactly the same forever. A river keeps flowing, mountains slowly wear down. That broken toy is like a small, personal example of this big idea. Think about a well-loved skateboard. It gets scuffs and scrapes, the wheels get worn down. It's not new anymore, but those marks show every trick learned, every fall, every journey. It tells a personal history. It's no longer just a board, it's a journal of adventures. In a way, a broken toy lets us feel this passage of time in a very gentle way. It reminds us that things break, things change, and that's just part of life. When we look at something broken, it makes us think about its journey. It invites us to imagine its moments of wholeness, its moments of joy, and that's why it matters. It teaches us a soft kind of wisdom, that even in imperfection, there is a deep and quiet beauty, a story that only time can carve. It helps us feel a connection to the past, to the hands that held it, and to the quiet flow of life itself. A shadow of what was. Have you ever found an old faded photograph, maybe of someone you don't know, and felt a strange quietness, like it holds a whisper from a long time ago? That feeling is a shadow of what was. It's not about spooky ghosts, but the quiet echoes of life that once filled a space or a moment. Think about it. Every person, every place, every second that passes leaves a mark. A photograph freezes one. When we look at unsettling old pictures, we're sensing the absence around them. We're looking at a time, a person, or an event that was once real and alive. Now, all that's left is a silent frame. People have always tried to capture moments. From ancient cave paintings to old portraits, we've wanted to hold on to what was. It's part of being human, this need to remember. Time moves only forward. Nothing stays the same. So, When we see a picture of a house that stood proudly, now just crumbled bricks, we feel the weight of that change. Or a vibrant person whose face now only exists in a still image. Here's an example. Imagine a drawing you made when you were little. Maybe it's a messy stick figure. When you see it now, you might chuckle, but you also remember being that small kid, focused on those crayons. You're not that person anymore, but a shadow of that small artist lingers in the lines. That drawing is a shadow of your past self. So, when we see these photos, especially the unsettling ones, it's a quiet reminder of how quickly things change. They make us think about what was, what is, and what might someday become a quiet echo. These images help us connect with the vast, winding story of time. They remind us to notice the light, even when we see the shadow. The picture's hidden detail. Have you ever looked at a photograph, truly looked, and felt like there was something else hiding just out of sight? Not something big and obvious, but a tiny flicker, a shadow, a detail so small it almost whispers. Sometimes, the creepiest photos aren't scary because of a monster or a ghost jumping out. Instead, their true chill comes from a small, often overlooked detail that changes everything you thought you saw. It's like peeling back a layer. We tend to see the surface, the main subject, the clear focus, but for centuries, artists, photographers, and even ordinary people have unintentionally, or sometimes on purpose, embedded little clues within their creations. Think about how a person's eyes can tell a deeper story than their smile, or how an ancient painting might have a tiny, almost invisible symbol that tells you about the artist's secret beliefs. It reminds us that things are rarely just one thing. There's always more beneath the surface. Here's the thing, our brains are designed to find patterns, to make sense of what we see, but they can also miss the quiet truth. Imagine you're looking at an old family photo from a sunny picnic. Everyone is laughing, holding hands. It looks perfect, right? But then your eye catches something in the background, a small, dark shape. Maybe it's just a bag, or maybe, when you look closer, it's a person you don't recognize, standing still, watching. Suddenly, that happy picnic feels a little different, a little off. The hidden detail changes the whole picture, and that's why it matters. When we take the time to notice these tiny elements, we're not just seeing an image, we're understanding a deeper story, a hidden moment in time. It teaches us to be more observant, to question, and to realize that the world, like many old photographs, is full of layers and untold secrets, waiting for us to truly see them. It reminds us to look beyond the obvious, because sometimes, the quietest things speak the loudest truth. A stranger's kindness. Have you ever been surprised by a small moment of kindness from someone you don't even know? It's like a tiny, warm light appearing when you least expect it. In a world that sometimes feels heavy, these moments show us something important about being human. Think about it. Even in the oldest stories or the toughest times, there are tales of people reaching out. It's almost like a quiet agreement we all share, a built-in need to connect, even just for a second. We're all walking different paths, but sometimes those paths cross, and for a moment, one person offers a hand or a kind word to another. Imagine you're having a really bad day at school. Maybe you tripped and dropped all your books, and you feel totally embarrassed. Then, someone you barely know just quietly helps you pick them up, not saying a word, just a small, helpful act. That tiny moment, it doesn't fix everything, but it can shift something inside you. It's like seeing a single star on a cloudy night, small, but a sign that there's still light somewhere. This isn't about grand gestures or big heroes. It's about those quiet, simple acts, a shared smile, holding a door, a quick offer of help. These small moments of kindness from a stranger, they remind us that even when the world feels broken or scary, there's always a thread of compassion running through it. They show us that human connection isn't just about the people we know well. It's also about the quiet, powerful grace of strangers who see us, even for a moment, and choose to be kind. And that, in itself, is a truly deep and hopeful thing to carry with us. The empty chair. Have you ever really looked at an empty chair? Not just walked past it, but truly seen it. It's just furniture, right? But sometimes, an empty chair feels deeply quiet. It's not about what is there, but what isn't. It points to an absence, a person who should be there but isn't. For centuries, across many cultures, an empty chair has carried deep meaning. An empty throne in a castle, a vacant spot at a family dinner. They all suggest someone important is gone. It makes us wonder who was there, or feel a quiet sadness for someone lost. We notice the absence because we remember the presence. This is how our minds connect with memory. When someone leaves, their favorite chair might sit there, just as they left it. Seeing it, you can almost hear their voice, or see them laughing. It's like a quiet echo. Here's the thing, that chair isn't just empty, it's full of the person who used to fill it. This happens in daily life. Imagine your spot at the dinner table. If someone else sits there, it feels a little off, doesn't it? That's because you connect that space to a person. We attach feelings to places. So, when we see an empty chair in a photograph, it's rarely just a chair. It's a silent story. It asks us to pause and reflect on who was there, or why they are no longer in that space. It reminds us that every person leaves a mark, and even in their absence, their memory can fill an empty chair. It's a gentle reminder to appreciate the people in our lives, because even what's missing can teach us about what truly matters. The window's view. Think about a window. It's just glass, right? But it's also a doorway for your eyes, a frame around a moment. What a window does is decide what you see and what you don't. It sets a boundary, a kind of magic rectangle. The world outside doesn't change, but how it looks to you depends on that frame, that exact spot you're standing. Pictures are a lot like this. They are little windows into time, into someone else's story, frozen forever. Artists for hundreds of years have used the idea of a window in their paintings, not just showing a window, but making the whole painting feel like a window. It was a way to pull your eye in, to make you feel like you could step right into that painted world. They understood that what you choose to frame, what you choose to include in your window, changes everything about the story you tell. A camera's lens works in a very similar way. It's a carefully chosen window that decides what gets captured and what stays hidden in the darkness. Think about your own bedroom window. In the morning, the light might spill in, making everything feel hopeful and bright. You see familiar trees, the street, but imagine looking out that same window on a dark, stormy night. The rain streaks down the glass, shadows dance, and suddenly, what was normal can feel unsettling, even a little scary. The window itself hasn't changed, but your feeling looking through it has. It's the context, the frame, that shifts everything. It's like seeing a picture of an old, abandoned playground. The swings are still, the paint is peeling. That image, that window, isn't just showing a playground. It's showing the feeling of lost laughter, of silence, where there should be joy. So, when we look at photos that give us a shiver, especially the creepy ones, it's often because of the window they offer us. They show just enough to spark our imagination, to make us wonder about the things just out of sight, beyond that frame. They don't give us all the answers, but they invite us to look closer, to feel the pull of the unseen. It's a reminder that what we choose to see, and how we see it, deeply shapes our understanding of the world. And sometimes, the scariest stories are simply those fleeting moments glimpsed through a small, unsettling window, leaving us to ponder the vast, mysterious unknown just beyond the glass. A cold touch. Have you ever looked at a photo and felt a shiver? Not from fear, but from a deep, quiet sadness or a strange chill. It's like the picture isn't just flat paper and ink. It holds something more. We call this a cold touch. Here's the thing. Some photographs do more than just show an image. They seem to carry a piece of the moment they were taken. It's almost like a whisper from the past. This isn't about ghosts. It's about a powerful feeling that stays with something long after an event is over. Think about an old, cold stone wall in an ancient building. You might feel a connection to all the hands that built it, all the lives lived around it. The stone itself isn't alive, but it holds a kind of silent story. Humans have always felt this way about objects and places. Long ago, some cultures believed things could hold memories or even parts of a person's spirit. We don't necessarily believe that literally today, but the feeling is still very real. If you find an old, faded toy in an abandoned house, it isn't scary, but you might feel a small ache, a sense of something lost. That's a cold touch of a childhood that ended. The toy wasn't alive, but it quietly tells the story of the child who loved it, now long gone. These photos are like that. They're windows, 2 moments long gone, moments that might have been difficult or strange. They freeze time, and because they're so still, so quiet, they can feel a bit cold. It's a reminder that even when things are over, when people are gone, the feelings and echoes of their lives can still reach us. It's a quiet understanding that the past isn't truly gone. It just waits, sometimes with a very cold touch. The unwanted guest. Have you ever had a feeling stick with you long after the moment is gone? It's like a shadow that just won't leave, or a quiet hum in the background you can't quite place. Sometimes a photograph can do that. It can become an unwanted guest in your mind. Here's the thing. We're not talking about a person who shows up uninvited to your house. This guest is an image, a memory, or an unsettling idea that settles into your thoughts without permission. It's something you saw, maybe just for a second, but it stays. It lingers, and it brings a feeling of unease that you just can't shake off. For a long time, humans have told stories about things that stay, things that don't belong but refuse to leave. Think about old folk tales where a spirit haunts a place, or a bad memory from a battle keeps coming back to a soldier. It's about a presence where you wish for absence. It's about something that disrupts your inner peace. This feeling is a bit like when you have a strange dream. You wake up, and you know it wasn't real, but the oddness of it, or the uncomfortable feeling it gave you, just sticks around all day. It's like a weird echo in your head. You try to focus on schoolwork, or talking to your friends, but a piece of that dream is still quietly occupying your mind. And that's what some of these creepy photos can do. They show you something, and then that image, or the question it raises, becomes an unwanted guest. It quietly lives in a corner of your thoughts, popping up when you least expect it. It reminds us how easily something can disturb our sense of calm, how a single glimpse can change the way we feel about the world around us. It shows us that some things, once seen, are simply unforgettable, whether we want them to be or not. A memory in dust. Have you ever wondered what happens to a moment after it's over? It feels like it just disappears, right? But here's the thing. Sometimes, parts of it linger, especially when we talk about old photos. A photograph isn't just a picture. It's like a whisper from the past, caught forever. It holds a tiny piece of time, a shadow of someone's life, even if that life was lived long, long ago. Think about it like this. When you look at a very old building, maybe one made of stone, you can almost feel the stories held within its walls. The dust that settles on old things, the cracks in the paint, they all tell a quiet story of time passing. A photo is much the same. It's a moment frozen, then left to gather the dust of years. Even when the people in the picture are gone, or the places have changed, the photo remains. It's a memory, made real. So, here's what I found. History isn't just dates and names in a book. It's also made of these small, quiet echoes. Every time someone snapped a picture, they were trying to hold on to something. Maybe it was joy, or sorrow, or just a simple, ordinary day. And sometimes, those captured moments are unsettling. They show us difficult truths or strange events that we might rather forget. Imagine drawing on a chalkboard with chalk, and then you try to wipe it away. Even after you erase, there's often a faint white trace left behind, a ghost of what was there. That's a bit like what these photos are. They are the faint traces, the dust motes, of moments that were too powerful, too strange, or too sad to simply vanish. They remind us that nothing truly disappears without leaving some kind of mark. Every experience, every life, no matter how brief or how distant, adds to the quiet history of the world. And sometimes, we find those histories preserved in images, speaking to us across the years, asking us to remember. The whispering walls. Have you ever walked into an old house, or maybe just a quiet, forgotten room, and felt something? It's not a sound, not a sight, but a feeling. It's like the very air around you holds a memory, a quiet echo of what once happened there. This is what we mean when we talk about the whispering walls. For thousands of years, people across different cultures have felt this same pull. They've sensed that places can hold on to something, almost like a spirit or a lasting energy. It's not necessarily about ghosts. Here's the thing, it's about how deeply we connect feelings to spaces. Think about your own room. If you always do your homework at your desk, just seeing that desk can sometimes make you feel a little bit of that homework feeling, right? Your brain has linked the action and emotion to the physical spot. Now, imagine that on a much bigger scale. Imagine a place where a lot of life happened, where people felt deep joy, or sorrow, or fear, day after day. It's like the very stones and wood of a building soak up these moments, becoming silent witnesses. They don't speak in words, but in a subtle atmosphere, a lingering presence. When we look at certain old photographs, especially those taken in places where hard, confusing, or even tragic things happened, we can sometimes feel that echo. It's not just the people in the picture that tell a story. It's the background, the walls, the dusty furniture. They seem to carry a weight, a quiet sadness, or a strange stillness that reaches across time. These places become like quiet keepers of secrets, holding the past not in a scary way, but in a profound, lasting way. And that's why, when we gaze at images from such settings, a shiver can run down our spine. It makes us think about all the lives lived, all the quiet moments, and loud ones, that any space might hold. Every place has its own memory, its own silent whisper, if you just listen closely enough. The silent guardian. Have you ever walked into an old, quiet house, or maybe looked at a faded photograph, and felt a strange presence, like someone was still there, watching? Not in a spooky way, necessarily, but a deep, quiet feeling. That's the idea of a silent guardian. It's not a person hiding. It's more like an echo, a memory left behind in a place or an object, an invisible witness to moments long past. Think about a very old tree, standing alone in a field. It has stood there for hundreds of years. It saw the sun rise and set countless times. It watched generations of people live their lives, build homes, and pass away. That tree holds within it a kind of quiet knowledge. It doesn't speak, but its very presence tells a story of time flowing by, of all the life it has silently observed. It's a natural guardian, a quiet keeper of history. It's similar to how scientists look at light from distant stars. When you see a star, you're not seeing it as it is right now. You're seeing the light that left it thousands of years ago. That light is like a tiny, ancient messenger, carrying a picture of the past right to your eyes. It's a silent record of what was traveling across space and time. So, when we talk about a silent guardian, we're thinking about those subtle traces, the way a place can feel heavy with history, or how an old letter can still hold the echo of someone's feelings. It reminds us that everything leaves an imprint, and in a quiet way, we all become silent guardians ourselves, by living our lives and leaving our own gentle marks on the world, waiting to be felt by those who come after us. It's a soft reminder that every moment has a quiet witness, even if it's just the world around us, slowly collecting its memories. The unsettling portrait. Have you ever looked at an old photograph, maybe of someone you've never met, and felt a quiet shiver? Not because the image is scary, but because something about their eyes, or their posture, just feels off. This is an unsettling portrait. It's not about ghosts. It's about a deeper feeling, a hint of something hidden beneath the surface of a face frozen in time. It asks a quiet question, reaching out from the past. Think about early photography. Taking a picture wasn't like snapping a quick selfie. People sat perfectly still for many long minutes. This often made their faces look very serious, even stiff. But in that stillness, something else could emerge. A tiredness, a deep sadness, or an emptiness in their eyes. It wasn't just about the long exposure. It was as if the camera, patiently waiting, captured not just a face, but a soul's deeper secret. It's like when a friend says they're fine, but their eyes tell a different story. You feel it in your gut, that quiet knowing something isn't right, even if you can't name it. An unsettling portrait carries that same quiet question. We look at these old faces and wonder, what were they truly feeling? What happened right before or after this moment was captured? The image becomes a foggy window, hinting at a world we can't quite touch. These portraits stand, silent echoes of lives long past. They remind us that beauty isn't always comforting. Sometimes, the most profound emotions are found not in grand gestures, but in a subtle head tilt or a still gaze. They whisper that even in a still image, life's deepest mysteries reside. They ask us to look closer, to feel more deeply, and to remember that every face holds an untold story, some of them wonderfully strange. The unseen listener. Have you ever walked into a quiet room and felt it wasn't quite empty? Like maybe echoes of old conversations still lingered. This feeling, this sense of something more, is what we call the unseen listener. It's not about literal ghosts, not really. It's about how places hold on to stories, even when no one is there to tell them. Think of it as a silent witness, a quiet presence shaped by everything that has happened there. People have felt this for a long time. Ancient cultures believed spirits lived in trees or rocks. Old stories talked about buildings having memories, or even a soul. It's the idea that energy, emotions, and events leave an imprint. It's like the air itself can remember. So, when you step into an old house or a quiet forest, you might feel a certain mood. That mood isn't just yours, it's a gentle whisper from the past, carried on the breeze of time. Here's an example. Imagine an old school hallway after everyone has gone home. The lockers are shut, the classroom's dark. But if you stand quietly, you might almost feel the rush of kids, the laughter, the sound of feet running. The faint scent of forgotten chalk dust seems to hang in the air, even if it's been swept away. It's not magic. It's your mind connecting with the lingering atmosphere of past moments. It's how human energy can seep into a place, becoming part of its quiet hum. So, what does this idea tell us? It suggests we are always part of a bigger story. The places we stand, the rooms we inhabit, they are all listening in their own way. They carry the whispers of yesterday, and perhaps they will carry our whispers tomorrow. It reminds us to be mindful, to consider the unseen connections, and to wonder what deeper stories a place might tell if we only knew how to truly listen to its silent, persistent voice. The last smile captured. Have you ever looked at an old photo, maybe a family picture, and wondered about that exact moment it was taken? You see smiles, maybe a silly pose, and you know what happened before and after it was snapped. But what about a photo where the people smiling had no idea what was coming next? This is the quiet power, and sometimes the eerie feeling, of a last smile captured. It's about seeing someone genuinely happy, perhaps even playful, in a photograph. But then, you learn the story behind it. You discover that shortly after that picture was taken, something big happened, something unexpected. Maybe a journey that ended differently than planned, or a sudden change in life that no one could have seen coming. The person in the photo is just living their moment, full of life, completely unaware of the future. But we, the viewers, are looking back, knowing. Think about the first cameras. They were heavy, slow. It took effort to get a photo. So, each picture was special. It was a frozen slice of time. And sometimes, those slices ended up being the very last glimpse of someone's joy or their normal, everyday life, before a historical event or a personal tragedy. It's like finding a diary entry where someone writes about their hopes for tomorrow. Only you know that tomorrow never arrived for them, in the way they imagined. Here's the thing, it makes you wonder about the moments we capture every day on our phones. Each selfie, each group shot, is a little moment in time. We don't know what's coming for us, or for the people in the frame. A last smile isn't always about something sad or scary. Sometimes it's just about the simple truth that life moves on, and photographs hold still. They become silent witnesses to what was, reminding us how precious each moment is, how quickly time flows, and how a simple smile can carry so much history. A path into the unknown. Why do we lean in closer when a story gets a little strange? Why do our eyes widen when we glimpse something we can't quite explain? It's not always about fear. Sometimes, it's about a feeling. It's that quiet pull toward something just beyond our understanding, something that sits at the edge of what we already know. This is the path into the unknown. It's a journey into mystery, a feeling of wonder mixed with a touch of curiosity. For as long as humans have been around, we've felt this pull. Think about ancient explorers charting new lands, or scientists gazing at the stars. They weren't just looking for facts. They were chasing something undefined. They wanted to understand what was over the next hill, or what the bright lights in the sky really were. Old stories and myths from different cultures are full of this. People trying to make sense of the world's quiet whispers and its loud, sudden mysteries. It's a basic human need to explore what we don't fully grasp. Here's an example. You might know. Imagine you're in your house at night. Everything is quiet. Then, you hear a faint creak from downstairs, or a shadow from the window looks like something it isn't. For a split second, your mind creates a story. It's not always a scary one. Sometimes, it's just a whisper of what if. Your brain wants to fill in the blanks, to solve the puzzle of what made that noise or what caused that shape. It's a natural urge to figure out the incomplete picture. The pictures we're about to explore are a lot like that. They are glimpses, frozen moments that hold a part of the unknown. They might not give us all the answers. In fact, they might leave us with more questions than we had before. But that's okay. That's part of the journey. Looking at them is like stepping onto that path, letting our minds wander into what isn't fully explained. So as we look at these images, let's remember this feeling. It's a calm challenge, a gentle invitation to think about things that aren't easily understood. And maybe, in wondering about what lies within these strange frames, we learn a little more about ourselves and the vast, beautifully mysterious world we share. The room of memories. Have you ever thought about where our memories live? Not just inside our heads, but the ones we can touch and see. For a long time, photos have been like little containers for memories. Imagine a room, quiet and dim, filled with old shoeboxes and dusty albums. Each one holds pictures, and each picture is a tiny window into a moment that once was. This room of memories isn't just a place, it's an idea. It's where the past sits, waiting. Before we had phones, taking pictures of everything, people treasured photographs. They were proof someone lived, a moment happened, a feeling existed. It was how we held on to people and times long gone. Think about your own family photos, maybe in an album your grandparents keep. Those aren't just pictures, they're stories. Here's the thing, some of these memory rooms hold more than just happy times. Some hold a heavy quiet, a strange feeling. It's like when you find a really old picture of someone you don't know, and their eyes seem to hold a secret. You can feel the weight of their story, even if you can't quite name it. These old images aren't just flat paper, they are echoes. Just like a scientist might study the rings of a tree to learn about the past, we can look at old photos. They tell us about feelings, fears, and the human experience from long ago. But sometimes, what they tell us is disturbing. Sometimes, the stillness in a photograph holds a hint of something unsettling, something that happened just beyond the camera's view, or maybe right in front of it. So, when we look at certain photos, especially the unsettling ones, it's like stepping into a part of this memory room that feels different. It reminds us that memory isn't always comforting. It can also hold the quiet, strange, and even creepy parts of what it means to be human, and what it meant to live in times before us. These images are silent witnesses, always there, whispering stories. The echo of a scream. Have you ever felt like a moment, a sound, or even a deep feeling doesn't truly disappear? Like it leaves a mark that stays behind. Here's the thing about some of the creepiest images. They come with stories so powerful, so filled with human experience, they seem to linger. It's like the echo of a scream. This isn't about ghosts or magic. It's about how intense human moments, especially those filled with fear or deep sadness, can ripple through time. People have thought about this for ages. Ancient thinkers and everyday folks noticed how certain places can feel heavy, or how old stories carry a weight. It's almost like past emotions leave an invisible print on history itself. This deep feeling, this sense of powerful remaining, is the echo. Think about something you felt strongly. Remember a big test or a performance. Even after it's over, the nervousness or excitement can stay with you. It's similar to how a scientist thinks about sound waves. When you shout, the sound travels and fades, but the energy existed. For these pictures, the scream isn't a literal sound. It's the raw, powerful emotion connected to what they show. The echo is how that emotion reaches us quietly across time. So, when we look at photos from the past that hold sorrow or mystery, we're not just seeing an old image. We're connecting with those echoes. We're letting the quiet impact of someone else's past reach our present. This matters. It teaches us to pause, to feel quiet, empathy. It reminds us that every moment, especially difficult ones, holds a silent story, and that story deserves our attention, understanding, and respect. History isn't just facts. It's made of human heartbeats, and sometimes, those silent, lingering echoes. The picture that lingers. Have you ever seen a photograph, perhaps just for a moment, and then found yourself thinking about it hours, days, or even weeks later? It's not just that you remember seeing it. It's more like the picture itself has left a small, quiet echo inside you, changing something subtle in the way you see the world. This is what we mean when we say a picture lingers. It's about more than just what's in the frame. It's about the feeling it carries, the story it whispers without words, and the questions it leaves behind. People have always been drawn to images with this power. Think about ancient cave paintings or old portraits. They aren't just decorations. They were ways to pass down feelings or deep truths. Even thousands of years ago, people knew a powerful image could carry something huge, beyond what you could simply see. It could touch your spirit. Here's the thing. Our brains are wired to connect with stories and emotions. When you see a picture that lingers, it's often because it taps into something real inside us. Maybe it reminds you of a fear you didn't know you had, or wonder. It's like when you hear a song for the first time, and it just clicks, settling deep inside you. You might not understand why, but it moves you. That song becomes part of your personal soundtrack, coming back to you later. A lingering picture does the same thing, but for your mind's eye. So, when we look at photos that stay with us, especially the unsettling ones, it's not just about fear. It's about how these images show us the hidden parts of life, things hard to explain. They remind us that the world holds many mysteries, and that sometimes a single frame can hold so much emotion, quietly felt long after you've looked away. And that's why it matters. These pictures, even the unsettling ones, can teach us about ourselves and the complicated beauty of life.